Chapter 390. What a bunch of cowards. Lin Fan opened his mouth. His voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. He insulted them in such a domineering manner. If they had balls, then come and fight him. The Golden Spirit Valley old man's expression was really ugly, and he hesitated. Lin Fan was provoking him. He didn't want to take this kid down, but the key was that he couldn't see through him. The domain just now meant that there was a domain realm expert here. Are we just going to let them leave? Someone asked unwillingly. The old man said, go test his strength. That person was stunned. How could he even say such words? Was he so shameless? If you want to go, then go yourself. I won't go. He was just asking and didn't have any other intentions. Lin Fan had already obtained rage points and was satisfied. As for killing all of them, that wasn't a good choice. Waste could be recycled endlessly. Killing one meant there would be one less. Thinking about it, it wasn't worth it at all. This was why keeping them was the best choice. In the future, if he had a chance, he would be able to do it again. Oi! Lin Fan turned around and shouted. He raised his middle finger at those people. Idiots, I am disappointed in all of you. You are so cowardly. I really left, and all of you just looked on. The courage of the weak really makes me feel helpless. Zhen Xiaobao learned from seniors and raised his middle finger to express his disdain. What a courageous young man. Chafu knocked on Zhen Xiaobao's head. This timid disciple actually dared to raise his middle finger. He had really grown up and walked further and further on the path of seeking death. Maybe one day, he would be beaten up by someone. Now, they were in Celestial Alliance territory, but they didn't know about it. As long as they continued, they would definitely bump into many top sections. Golden Spirit Valley was just one of them. After Lin Fan left, the old man returned to the sect to report that someone was causing trouble in Jilu City. He didn't know where they came from, but they definitely weren't simple. As for whether or not they were from other top sects, it was hard to say, but there definitely had to be an expert here. Dragon Island, an island at the border. The most important place in Zhao family, as there were dragons here. The items needed for the purple gold dragon essence pill were provided by these dragons. Zhao family sent all their disciples here to continue the family legacy. Meeting hall. All the higher-ups of the Zhao family were gathered here. Family head. Now that King Wudong has occupied the Imperial Dynasty is gone. Although it has affected our Zhao family, as long as Dragon Island is there, our Zhao family will be able to survive. Moreover, the chance is here. I think that the Zhao family can become a king and compete with those top sections. The one who spoke was a higher-up of the Zhao family, Zhao Sun. He was also a direct descendant of the older generation. It was just that he didn't take the position of patriarch, so he was now an elder within the patriarch, second only to the patriarch. Zhao Sun was ambitious. Even if he couldn't become the family head, he wanted the Zhao family to become bigger and his position to become higher. And I agree with this suggestion. The royal family is no longer around, and it is normal for our Zhao family to develop on our own. I feel that if we establish a sect with Dragon Island as our foundation, it won't be a problem for us to become a top sect in a few years. If the old ancestor is still around, then our Zhao family will be a top sect. The person who spoke was the Zhao family's second master, Zhao Zhongtian. The head of the Zhao family looked at the man who had been sitting there without saying a word. Fourth brother, what do you think? This fourth brother was the strongest in the Zhao family dragon form. This was because the dragon form part of his body didn't age, and his face maintained the look of a young man. Zhao Xianwang opened his eyes and looked at everyone calmly. Are all of you thinking of rebelling? The moment he said this, everyone's expressions changed. It was obvious that they didn't expect Zhao Xianwang to be so direct. All of you must remember that when Zhao family obtained Dragon Island, it should have belonged to the Imperial Dynasty. But the Emperor gave it to us and gave us the ability to develop. The Imperial Dynasty has never regretted it. Now that the Imperial Dynasty hasn't been wiped out and Crown Prince Shaoqi is still alive, all of you aren't thinking of ways to help him rebuild his country. Instead, you want to follow those sects and occupy land. Don't you think that is a little too much? Zhao Xianwang said. Fourth brother, I don't agree with those words. Our Zhao family has tried our best. For the legacy of our family, it is normal for us to make changes. Zhao Sun said. Kiki, tried your best? What do you mean by tried your best? If I have to say one, then it is Lin Wani who tried his best. As for us, the emperor trusts us and hopes that we can preserve our strength to help the crown prince take back the imperial dynasty. Now that you say that you tried your best, it is just a joke. All of you are just finding a reason to lie to yourselves and chase the desires in your hearts. Zhao Xianwang didn't give them any face at all. Even if he was the fourth brother, he had the right to speak. Zhao Zhangtian frowned. Fourth brother, your words are a little heavy. Zhao family's legacy can't be wiped out. Now that we want to establish a sect, it's just to pass down our legacy. If we can find a crown prince, we will support him to restore the country. Kiki. Zhao Xianwang laughed. Who will believe your words? Maybe even all of you won't believe it. Okay, stop arguing. Zhao family head stopped the meaningless argument. Based on the old rules, I don't have the final say in the Zhao family. Let's vote to form a sect or to continue like this. In the meeting room, everyone looked at one another and joy appeared on their faces. Big Brother's intentions were clear. He also wanted to form a sect. After all, most people agreed. As for those who objected, there were only a few. Zhao Xianwang stood up. That's enough. Don't play these little tricks. If it was something else, I could play along with you, but I'm not interested. I won't be staying in the Zhao family. The crown prince is still somewhere, and I have to go help him. When everyone heard that Zhao Xianwang was leaving, their expressions changed. Zhao Xianwang was really strong, and if he left, the Zhao family would become weaker. Fourth brother, you aren't even going to listen to Big Brother? Zhao family head got up. We are deciding the future of the Zhao family. As the family head, I have to be responsible for the entire Zhao family. If the legacy ends in our hands, we will all be sinners. Zhao Xianwang said, Big Brother, don't say that fourth brother isn't listening. Everyone has desires. Even I have desires. But there are some things that we can't have, such as abandoning the imperial dynasty and forming a sect. I definitely won't agree to that. If the old ancestor is here, he definitely won't agree to that. Zhao family head was unhappy. Fourth brother was just so stubborn. Fourth brother, the old ancestor has died with the imperial dynasty, and we don't know what the situation is like. If the old ancestor dies, then the Zhao family has repaid the imperial dynasty. Everyone around nodded. The family head's words made sense. After so many years, the Zhao family had repaid the imperial dynasty. Now that the Zhao family was developing on their own, they didn't owe anyone anything. They didn't understand Zhao Xuanwang's persistence. Living under the power of others wasn't as good as controlling oneself. Repay. Suddenly, a low and furious voice spread into their ears. When everyone heard this voice, they were delighted. It was the old ancestor's voice. But shortly after, some of them panicked. The old ancestor was back. So what was the point of saying all this? The Zhao family old ancestor walked out from the dimension and looked at everyone present. He said coldly, the Zhao family will never be able to repay the debt. The Zhao family ancestor was just an unassuming normal person. The imperial dynasty paid attention to him, and he established the Zhao family step by step. During the development process, we were really strong and went through the danger of being wiped out 6 times. If not for the imperial dynasty trusting us, do you think that we would still be here today? Even if we did, all of you would be like those normal people and would still be farming. How can we allow all of you to be so high up? Zhao Sun was unhappy and stepped out. Old ancestor, now that the alliance is here, the top sects are occupying land. Our Zhao family isn't weak, so we should spread our wings and charge. Pong! The Zhao family old ancestor slapped forwards, smashing Zhao Sun to the ground and crippling him. Old ancestor. Zhao Sun spat out blood and looked at the old ancestor in disbelief. He didn't expect that the old ancestor would actually cripple him and turn him into a useless person. From today onwards, anyone who dares to mention this matter will be dealt with according to the family rules. The Zhao family old ancestor raged. He then looked at the current family head. Take back the position of family head and let me take over everything. He really didn't expect that there would really be someone who wanted to be the king. He was prepared to die with the imperial dynasty and even asked for forgiveness from the emperor. But at that time, he still had some hope and felt that it was impossible. Now, it seemed like he was thinking too much. At that moment, everyone was stunned. The Zhao family head's face was ashen white. He didn't expect the old ancestor to be so angry, and it terrified him. Zhao Zhangtian looked at Zhao Sun and wanted to say something. But thinking about it, he kept it in his heart. It wasn't a wise choice to say it now. The old ancestor returned to take over the Zhao family. Who would dare to be arrogant? Xian King, stay. The rest of you scram. The Zhao family old ancestor said. Everyone left in a hurry. Zhao Sun was carried away. It was really tragic. Zhao family lost another Dao realm expert. What a waste. But the old ancestor was the one who attacked, so what could they do? They could only accept it. Xian King, I will give you a mission. Head to the Su family and let them bring you to where the princes are. No matter what, you have to ensure their safety. Even if you have to sacrifice yourself, you have to do it. The Zhao family old ancestor said. Yes, Zhao Xianwang replied. Su Changxin knew where the emperor sent the princes to. The emperor sent all the experts of the imperial dynasty to escort the princes away because he didn't want any of them to be lost in the imperial dynasty. The situation was irreversible, and they could only find a chance to rebuild the country. But the imperial dynasty, Zhao family, and Su family weren't enough. They had to wait for a chance. As long as the chance came, they would succeed. The fact that Lin Wani didn't die was the greatest chance. They were already old, and the chances were slim. As long as one of them could break through, they would be invincible and crush everything. Then, everything would be fine. Chapter 391. Young Master Lin, what are you planning? Cha Fu asked. When they first met, he didn't see any problems. But after that, Cha Fu gradually couldn't understand what was going on. He caused trouble for no reason and was like a headless fly. Whenever he caught someone, he would just suppress them. If this continued, it would be easy for him to offend people. When they faced experts, it would be too late for regrets. What is it? Lin Fan asked. Cha Fu was helpless. Since that was the case, then he could only mention it. Young Master Lin, just say that Jiulu City has nothing to do with us. Even if we kill all the sect disciples here, there won't be much of a change. What I mean is that everything has a motive. So what is young Master Lin's motive? Lin Fan smiled. Motive? I don't have any motive. I just want to do it and listen to my heart. To be more direct, I have enmity with the top sections. Cha Fu was speechless. What kind of motive was that? He didn't understand at all. Zhu Shun had given up on convincing young Master Lin. Since things had already reached such a stage, what else could he say? He could only continue. As for how far he could go, that would depend on fate. Master, I think that Senior's words make sense. Although I don't understand the exact meaning, I feel that it does make sense. Zhen Xiaobao said. Cha Fu looked at Zhen Xiaobao. This silly disciple was showing signs of rebelling. Su Furong squatted beside Cha Fu. Master, I think that you are right. After they left Jiulu City, the Golden Spirit Valley disciples reported the situation. An expert came to Jiulu City, and that wasn't a good thing for them. They needed to send experts to defend this place. Naturally, those below Dao realm weren't enough. But to the people of Golden Spirit Valley, they really didn't expect such a thing to happen. All the top sects joined hands and formed the 4 alliances. Golden Spirit Valley was in the Celestial Alliance. Now, everything was really calm and there were no conflicts. The top sects didn't have any conflicts and their thoughts were the same. It all depended on what the alliance thought. Zhu Shun, I suddenly thought about something. Lin Fan pondered for a moment and suddenly had an idea. Actually, he didn't need to explain the current situation. He understood it clearly in his heart. The alliance was the leader and they were even more terrifying than the top sections. After all, the alliance worked together and based on what happened in the past, one could see that they were willing to pay any price to take down the defense line. No matter how many 9-star generals died, they didn't retreat at all. As for those top sects, as long as he put in a little more effort, he might be able to deal with those top sections. It was indeed very difficult to take care of all these fellows with one person's strength. Unless one's strength reached the peak, no matter what stage one was at, one punch would be able to kill them. Then, everything else wouldn't be a problem at all. However, his current strength was still far from the peak. Who knew how long it would take? The legacy of the Darkness Chief God gave him some ideas. That was to recruit believers and use their faith to increase their strength. The higher their faith, the better the feedback they would receive. When that time came, they would be able to bring a large group of people to attack. Just thinking about that scene would make anyone feel excited. Young Master Lin, what are you thinking about? Zhu Shan didn't have any hope for Lin Fan. His thoughts were definitely unacceptable. Lin Fan said, I am prepared to develop Martial Path Mountain. Huh? Zhu Shan's eyes opened wide as he looked at Lin Fan. Oh my God, what kind of thoughts were those? Develop Martial Path Mountain? In the past, wasn't he developing Martial Path Mountain? But he didn't succeed, and he gave up halfway. Moreover, Master Lin's biggest hope was for him to stay on Martial Path Mountain. Young Master Lin, I feel like we were walking back the same path. Zhu Shan said what he was thinking. Lin Fan felt a little awkward. Zhu Shan was right. They were indeed walking back the same path. But as a veteran, how could he lose so easily? Zhu Shan, your words make sense, but there is actually a huge problem. Developing isn't just normal development. It is serious development. When he said this, he paused for a moment like he didn't know what to say next. But no matter what, he still had to say it. Serious development? Zhu Shan was stunned. He thought that young Master Lin would be able to say some big words. But looking at the situation, what big words? It didn't make any difference at all. Zhu Shan, don't underestimate this serious development because I'm starting to get serious. Lin Fan said. Pucci. Su Farong couldn't help but laugh out loud. But he covered his mouth and didn't dare to laugh anymore. Cha Fu was helpless. He blinked and didn't understand what young Master Lin was thinking. Maybe this was how overbearing young people were. Zhu Shan asked, Young Master Lin, what should we do next? Continue forward or head back to Martial Path Mountain? He didn't want to make any suggestions at all. It wasn't that he had nothing to say, but that he didn't know what to say. Lin Fan thought about it. Head back and slowly get close to Martial Path Mountain. Since we want to develop the sect, we have to find disciples. I need to think about the specifics. Now that he had a rough idea, he had to think about the specifics. Zhu Shan looked at Lin Fan and thought about it. That was a good idea. He didn't want young Master Lin to have conflicts with the top sects and the Alliance. This was why he agreed with young Master Lin's idea of returning to Martial Path Mountain. Stability was the most important thing. If not, he would be walking further and further away from death. Water region. This place wasn't an alternate dimension, but a place covered by water. In the depths of the water, there was a space for people to rest. There were buildings, flowers, and beasts. Brother Lin, now that I think about it, it's been many years since we last met. In a pavilion, an old man wearing a green robe gave off an extraordinary aura. He had a benevolent face and a white beard hung down. He gave off a feeling like he was an expert. Lin Wani looked at him. Tell me, I have accompanied you to drink tea for 10 days. That is enough. The old man smiled. Brother Lin, you are a good person, but you are just too anxious. What is the saying? What is united will be separated, and what is separated will be reunited. Now that the imperial dynasty has been wiped out, it means that the imperial dynasty's fate has come to an end. Why do you have to forcefully turn it around? Water Emperor, I didn't come to listen to your nonsense. Lin Wani frowned and felt really helpless. After leaving Yu City, he had been searching for those experts. But to Lin Wani, those people were just slightly stronger people. Water Emperor said, How is that nonsense? I am speaking the truth. The situation is not something we can control. So what if you are strong? Can you be enemies with everyone in the world? Especially those top sections. They have been waiting for this moment, but you want to block their path. Have you thought about the outcome? Lin Wani knew that things weren't so easy to solve, but no matter what, he had to do something. Moreover, he agreed with what Water Emperor said. A person's strength was really weak. Even if he was strong enough to fight people of the same cultivation, What about 10 or 100? Would he be able to take advantage of the other party? Water Emperor saw that Lin Wani was deep in thought and continued, Brother Lin, no matter what, you have to admit one thing. Once the sects are formed, you have no chance at all. In the past, the sects were restricted by the imperial dynasty. Apart from the support of the imperial dynasty and all of you, the sects were protecting themselves and none of them were willing to stand out. But things are different now. The sects are united, and based on what I know, they have formed 4 alliances. Even if the imperial dynasty returns to its former glory, they won't be able to fight back at all. Don't you agree? Lin Wani looked at Water Emperor. This person really knew how to speak, and he had no room to retort. Maybe this was the reason why he didn't study much. If you don't say anything, it means that you admit it. Then, let me analyze it for you. King Wutong's rebellion was the most lethal fuse. His appearance allowed some sects to see hope. At the same time, the Alliance's attack made the sects stare at them aggressively. So, from the start, King Wudong's rebellion shouldn't have happened. But one has to say that this is fate. The imperial dynasty has reached its end, and a calamity has to happen. If not for King Wutong's rebellion, things might have turned around. But it is too late to say anything now, and it is useless. Hayes, in my opinion, the late emperor had no foresight. As an advisor of the imperial dynasty, I helped the late emperor expand his territory and played all the sects in the palm of my hand. In the end, you actually said that I had a problem with my character. Water Emperor sighed and felt really helpless and sad. Lin Wani said, You do have a problem with your character. The last emperor treated you well, but you were caught peeping on the princess bathing. It is already good that he didn't kill you. Water Emperor retorted, Who peeped? Was I peeping? I noticed that there was a small hole in the window. The princess was bathing inside, and the wind blew in. Was she caught a cold? I had no choice and could only use my eyes to block it. It was a good thing, but all of you said that I had a problem with my character. I really can't accept that. Kiki. Lin Wani laughed coldly. He had nothing to say about Water Emperor. As for that era, he didn't know either. He wasn't even born then. Let's go, Water Emperor said. Lin Wani shook his head and was prepared to leave. It seemed like he could only rely on himself. Why are you leaving so quickly? Are you not going to wait for me? Water Emperor shouted. Lin Wani was stunned. Didn't you say, when did I say anything? I was just grumbling. No matter what, I was once an advisor of the imperial dynasty. I blame the last emperor for having bad foresight, but I don't believe that the current prince has no foresight. Let's go. I will leave with you. Water Emperor got up. P.S. I have something to do tonight. Chapter 392. Water Emperor's words stunned Lin Wani for a moment. But when he came back to his senses, he looked at Water Emperor. At least you have a conscience. Brother Lin, do you know where the princes are? Water Emperor asked. Lin Wani nodded. Of course. Actually, not many people knew where the prince was being transported to. Only the Su clan's ancestor and him knew. Water Emperor was really old and had left the imperial dynasty for a long time. At that time, Water Emperor served the late emperor and was fired because of his morals. But it was hard to say whether or not he was fired because of his morals. After all, how could such a person be punished for such a small matter? So, no one knew what the exact situation was. When Lin Wani was busy with all this, he missed his unfilial son and didn't know how he was doing. But he wasn't as worried as before. Maybe it was because Lin Wani recognized Lin Fan's cultivation. After all, he was at Dao Realm, and as long as he didn't ask to die, he should be fine. But what he didn't know was that Lin Fan had been walking on the edge of asking to die. Jilu City. When Lin Fan and the others were heading back, they passed by this place. He wanted to head in and have a good chat with the people in Jilu City, but Zhu Shin stopped him. It was as if he would fight to the death if he entered. He noticed Zhu Shun's personality. He fought against the Alliance because he had a fearless, sacrificial spirit. He was fearless and would fight against the heavens and earth until he died with them. But now, he realized that Zhu Shun was actually a good person. Perhaps this was the after effect of going through a great war and surviving in a land of the dead. That should be the case. This was just Lin Fan's guess. Lin Fan looked at Jilu City from afar. Since that was the case, then forget it. Anyway, he had just come last time, and even if he earned rage points, it wouldn't be so quick. He had already accumulated 180,000 rage points. There was no rush to slowly raise it. As expected, Dao Realm wasn't easy to raise. He needed to slowly form Dao patterns. Zhu Shun heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that young Master Lin didn't head to Jilu City. If young Master Lin really wanted to head in, he wouldn't know what to do. He could only bite the bullet and follow. But there was a high chance that he would meet an expert. A few days later, Lin Fan looked at Zhen Xiaobao. During this period of time, Zhen Xiaobao's faith in him had remained at the same level as before. He was thinking about it. The faith formed in such a short period of time wasn't as thick as Go Z's and the others. It probably had to do with the amount of time they spent together, and it wasn't reliable. However, to raise the level of faith, one needed to be fed back. This idea was only a temporary guess. He could try it out for himself. Zhen Xiaobao lowered his head and rested for a moment. Suddenly, he felt someone walking in front of him. He raised his head, and when he saw that it was Lin Fan, he was overjoyed. "Senior, what's the matter?" Su Furong looked at Zhen Xiaobao's bootlicker and felt helpless. Even though junior brother Lin used to be stupid, at least he had his own dignity. But look at him now. He was completely reduced to a bootlicker. As a senior brother, his heart was filled with pain. Lin Fan's expression was solemn as he spoke. "Xiaobao, I can already feel your faith in me. Let me ask you, are you willing to accept my gift of power?" Huh? He was stunned. He was totally stunned. Cha Fu looked at young Master Lin with his mouth agape. He had a bad feeling that Lin Fan was bluffing his disciple. "Young Master Lin, he is still young. Forget it." Cha Fu said. No matter what, he was his disciple. Although he was a little stupid, he couldn't be bluffed like that. In the future, I still have to rely on him to take care of me when I die. If he was bluffed by you, then wouldn't I have work for nothing? Zhen Xiaobao just stared at Lin Fan in a daze, as though he was completely dumbfounded. To others, Lin Fan didn't seem to have changed at all. But in Xiaobao's eyes, Lin Fan's image had suddenly become much bigger, giving him a feeling of holiness. Lin Fan looked at Zhen Xiaobao and thought about it. Was the Darkness Chief God's aura so effective? "I am willing," Zhen Xiaobao said. "Okay, then prepare yourself." Lin Fan placed one hand on Zhen Xiaobao's head. His faith wasn't high enough, but it met the requirements. During this period of time, he didn't see any signs of his faith increasing. It was still gray, and there was a huge difference from the thick purple faith. Zhen Xiaobao was really weak and was still in the martial path realm. Instantly, a weak power exploded out. This was already his limit. Zhen Xiaobao's faith in him could only take such power. At that moment, Zhen Xiaobao felt a mysterious power surging in from the outside and filling up his entire body. Shortly after, Zhen Xiaobao cried out in comfort. Su Furong looked on curiously. Just what was going on? Junior brother couldn't have really gone berserk, right? How long? The realms in Zhen Xiaobao's body broke through layer by layer, and his strength jumped. Pucci, an energy wave spread out with Zhen Xiaobao at the center. Zhen Xiaobao became totally different. To others, the energy wave that spread out was the aura of an expert. How is that possible? Cha Fu stared at Zhen Xiaobao in disbelief. His mouth opened so wide that one could stuff an egg in. Damn, he really saw a ghost. If he hadn't personally witnessed it, he didn't dare to believe it. "Senior," Zhen Xiaobao felt really comfortable. He had never felt such a feeling before. He got up and clenched his fists. His expression was exaggerated. "Senior, my body is filled with power," Lin Fan said calmly, "and not bad. You are already at initial master realm. Among the younger generation, you are a genius." He was indeed a genius. To reach master realm before 20 years of age, in some sects, one would be considered a genius. Damn, Chief God's faith power was really terrifying and overbearing. He used faith power to exchange for absolute strength, and he didn't have to cultivate. But actually, he was just using Lin Fan's strength. If not for the small support system, Even the strongest chief god wouldn't be willing to give it to his believers. That was because he was spreading out his strength, and it would make him much weaker. Of course, this power could be retracted. At that moment, he realized that Zheng Xiaobao's faith power had changed. It actually turned from gray to white. There was a thread of gray mixed in the white. It wasn't pure, but it was still an evolution of faith. He could continue to raise his strength. But he didn't do that. He took it slow. This was nurturing. It wasn't good to raise too much at once. Su Furong was stunned. Although he couldn't see how strong Junior Brother was, he felt that Junior Brother had become really terrifying. Junior Brother, who was much weaker than him in the past. How did he become so strong? That was just too terrifying. He was filled with disbelief. He looked towards Lin Fan. All this while, he had thought that the other party was just fooling his junior brother. Only his stupid junior brother would believe the other party's words. But looking at the situation, he suddenly felt that he might be the most foolish one. Young Master Lin, how did you do that? Zhu Shen asked. He was really knowledgeable and had been through many things, but he had never seen such a situation before. It was too magical, or rather, it was impossible. No one had been able to instantly raise someone else's strength. He thought about Mu Gang's situation for a long time. He felt that it was unbelievable. Zheng Xiaobao's change made Zhu Shun feel that young Master Lin was in control of some unknown secret. Lin Fan smiled. How did I do it? This is a secret technique of mine that can raise one's cultivation. Sometimes he was thinking about it. How did the Darkness Chief God's God domain come here? This world didn't look like a world where faith made one a god. Now that he obtained this god domain, he realized that it was really overpowered when used with the small support system. To casually create an expert went against logic. Just thinking about it, one would know that it was impossible. But he had no choice, as that was the reality. That was how experts came about. Secret technique? Zhu Shun was in deep thought. He had never heard of such a technique. It seemed like young Master Lin was bragging. Forget it. He shouldn't ask anymore. Suddenly, Zhu Shun thought about something that young Master Lin said before. He wanted to develop Martial Path Mountain seriously. At the start, he didn't understand what young Master Lin was thinking. Now, he suddenly understood. He wanted to use the secret technique to raise his strength and recruit more people to raise their cultivation. Even if they faced the Alliance or top sects, they would be able to fight. Although he didn't know what price he had to pay to raise his strength, looking at young Master Lin, it was obvious that he didn't care much about it. That meant that he was really confident. If that was the case, then he did have some development potential. After Zheng Xiaobao's strength increased, his mentality was different. He was really emotional and didn't know what to say. Master, I have become a Master Realm expert. Zheng Xiaobao was so excited that he jumped up. His body was filled with power. If he didn't personally experience it, he wouldn't have been able to imagine it. Chafu looked at his disciple and was really happy. But more than that, he felt like something was going to happen. His disciple was about to be bluffed. Senior brother, look at my strength. Am I really strong now? Zheng Xiaobao was willing to share his happiness with the people around him. All his senior brothers were his targets. Su Furong blinked. His heart felt really sour, like he was the reincarnation of a lemon. That sourness wasn't something that normal people could imagine. Amazing. Su Furong had no choice and could only admit that his junior brother was amazing. How could he not be amazing? His cultivation was much higher than his, so how could he live like that? He looked towards Lin Fan, like he wanted to ask if it was too late to suck up to him. Chapter 393. Zheng Xiaobao's change made Su Furong so envious that he was about to explode. Junior brother was so short and weak, but he became so strong. He regretted it. If he knew that there were such benefits, he would have become a bootlicker. He would have licked even more than junior brother. But what he didn't know was that he needed faith. Without faith, even if he licked until the sky collapsed and his tongue exploded, it was useless. Lin Fan looked at Su Furong's expression. He wanted to lick him. Unfortunately, he didn't have the right to do so. He realized that it was really difficult to find someone who believed in him. It wasn't as simple as he thought. It wasn't easy for Zheng Xiaobao to believe in him. Jin Xiaobao felt really good. The way he looked at Lin Fan was different. Maybe this was worship. No, this was faith that was even higher than worship. Zhu Shan felt like things were getting more and more magical. Young Master Lin had too many secrets, so many that he couldn't find out anymore. But he didn't continue asking. Anyway, young Master Lin was on his side. So what was the point of asking so clearly? There was no need at all. At that moment, Lin Fan was thinking about whether or not the two thickest faith lines belonged to Gozi and Cousin. Maybe he would know when he returned to Marshall Path Mountain. If that was true, then he wouldn't worry too much about Cousin's safety. He was even thinking that this wasn't bad. Cousin was really talented, but if he wanted to enter such a battle level, that wasn't something that could be done with just talent. He needed time. Without decades of time, it was basically impossible to enter the Tao realm to fight. But he was in deep thought. Just how much power did this massive faith bring to them? Or what realm did it raise them to? It was hard to say. Only by meeting them would they be able to find out. Imperial Dynasty. King Wudong started from scratch and started to dig out the talents around him. Of course, the most important thing was loyalty. As a strategist, Lu Xian started to plan a way out for himself. He contacted the Alliance closely and became their chess piece to monitor King Wudong. Sir Lu. At that moment, in the Lu Manor reading room, Lu Xian sat there. He looked at the few generals and officials around and nodded his head. These were all talents that he had recruited and were from his faction. At the same time, there were people who were inclined to have a good relationship with the Alliance. Guys, you should know about what happened recently. A few generals made some mistakes and were killed by King Wudong on the spot. This really disappointed many people. After all, we are old heroes who followed King Wudong. Even if we didn't do much, we did work hard. But just like that, he killed us just like that. He showed no mercy at all. Lu Xian said. The crowd sighed. Sigh, I'm disappointed. Yeah, I have a feeling that the same thing will happen to us. When these generals and officials thought of those things, they all trembled in fear. They couldn't imagine when such a thing would happen to them. Now that Zhu Xiang has been trusted by King Wudong, he has climbed above our heads. He is a blade in King Wudong's hand, hanging on our necks and waiting for a chance to kill us with one blade. If you want to live, you have to find a way out. Lu Xian really didn't expect Zhu Xiang to climb so quickly. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside. Old Master is meeting guests inside. You can't barge in. The butler tried to stop them, but very quickly, there were screams like someone had kicked him to the ground. Pung! The door to the reading room was kicked open. Lu Xian stood up and scolded. Zhu Xiang, what are you doing? When he saw Zhu Xiang, Lu Xian's expression was really ugly. It was so dark and sunken. I received news that someone is gathering here to rebel, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect all of you to be chatting here. Please don't blame me. I will report this matter back. Zhu Xiang remembered everyone's faces. Some of them turned their heads like they were hiding and didn't want Zhu Xiang to see them. But that was just them trying to cover their heads. Scram right now. Lu Xian hollered in rage. He pointed at the door and told Zhu Xiang to scram. If the heavens could give him a chance to return to the past, he would definitely kill Zhu Xiang without any hesitation. A fellow that he tossed to dig stones actually dared to shit on his head. He really didn't expect that. Sir Lu, don't be so emotional. Since there is no rebellion, then I will take my leave. Zhu Xiang smiled and cupped his fists. But when he left, his gaze towards them made them panic. They felt like things were a little off. Slowly, when Zhu Xiang left, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Sir Lu, do you think that King Wudong is going to attack us? An official asked carefully. He was really afraid. Being with the king was like being with a tiger, but he didn't cause any trouble recently. So why did he attack him? Lu Xian's expression was really ugly, and he didn't reply. He was thinking about something. Maybe he should take action earlier. He felt like King Wudong wanted to mess with him and was just looking for a chance. Let's disperse. All of you should be careful during this period of time. Lu Xian said. Now that the Alliance controlled 28 cities, they formed an unbreakable defense net. He knew that the Alliance didn't just want these 28 cities, they wanted more. The cooperation between the Alliance and King Wudong was still ongoing. But his cooperation with the Alliance was hidden in the dark, and no one noticed it. Zhu Xiang walked out of the Lu Manor with a smile on his face. He had successfully climbed to such a position, and he understood that King Wudong was using him as a knife. But it didn't matter. As long as he proved that he was useful, he would be respected. If he was useless, then he would be abandoned. King Wudong told him to come to the Lu Manor to attack Lu Xian. He was happy to do such a thing. Within the imperial dynasty, the alliance envoy stood in front of King Wudong. I heard that your majesty is going to attack those who have contributed so much. Isn't this a little too much? King Wudong smiled. How is this a little too much? I just don't like to share wealth with others. Moreover, they think that they have contributed so much and think highly of themselves. Leaving them alive is just a problem, so I have to wipe them all out. The envoy looked at King Wudong and then shook his head. But deep down, he was really wary. He felt like King Wudong knew that the alliance had infiltrated the imperial dynasty. But to the alliance, this wasn't a really important matter. With the territory that the alliance controlled, it could be said that it was huge. This is your majesty's matter, so I can't say much. But the power distribution in the world is a little messy. Buddha Alliance, Celestial Alliance, Monster Alliance, and Evil Alliance have appeared. What does your majesty think? The envoy asked. These were the things that gave the alliance a headache. These powers were formed by numerous top sects, and if they wanted to attack them, they would be asking for trouble for themselves. But to let the imperial dynasty suppress them was a good thing. It would be perfect if they didn't need to use a single soldier to achieve what they wanted. King Wudong said, there is nothing we can do. The imperial dynasty is just too weak, and we can't do anything to those top sections. If the alliance wants to attack those top sects, the imperial dynasty will definitely send a large number of people to help. The people he was talking about were normal soldiers. The envoy smiled and didn't say a word. He only had one thought about what King Wudong said, which was that he was really cunning. If normal soldiers went against the sects, they would just be cannon fodder. Or rather, they wouldn't even be cannon fodder. The alliance is making a decision on this matter. Once the decision is made, your majesty, please help. The envoy said. King Wudong smiled. His thoughts were really simple. Damn, they were just a bunch of dogs. The alliance occupied 28 cities and didn't think about returning them to the imperial dynasty. At the same time, they were expanding their territory. Even if King Wudong protested, it was useless. But that needed time. The main reason was that there were too many natives and it was too intense, causing them to have a rebellious mentality. This was why the alliance headquarters wanted to slowly assimilate them and let them have a sense of belonging to the alliance. Originally, the alliance headquarters' thoughts were really simple, which was to capture all the natives, kill a bunch, and enslave a bunch. But who knew that those who wanted peace wouldn't change their minds and were still playing small tricks? At the same time, the alliance civilians showed mercy, causing the alliance headquarters to be unable to do anything. Now that the natives' country gates have been blown open, what else could they ask for? They just had to kill them. But they had no choice as those who wanted peace were still working hard. But the various colleges had started to slowly transfer their students' graduation missions to the natives. But there was still a problem. Apart from the alliance, Hell Mountain, Ocean Emperor Island, etc., were all arguing with the alliance headquarters. Since they gained benefits, how could they not? After all, that also helped. Therefore, this was a troublesome matter. The alliance headquarters couldn't fall out with these factions, as it wouldn't be good for their development. They could only try to pull them along. Lin Fan and the others walked back. Along the way, nothing happened. This disappointed Lin Fan greatly. A journey without any problems was the most soulless. He hoped that he would face some problems and then cause trouble to accumulate rage points to raise his strength. Senior, what do you think of me? Su Furong couldn't help but want to suck up to him. After Zhun Xiaobao showed off in front of him, he couldn't take it anymore and asked Lin Fan. Lin Fan took a look. You still can't do it? His reply was really direct. It dealt a huge blow to Su Furong's heart. No. Su Furong didn't dare to believe it. Even his junior brother could do it, but he was such a smart person, but he couldn't. That just didn't make sense. He was really unwilling. At that moment, even Lin Fan didn't know how to make others believe in him so quickly. Chapter 394. Chafu saw everything that his two disciples did. He was deeply disappointed. These were the two disciples that he taught, and they actually ended up like that. He thought that it was okay if Zhang Xiaobao ended up like that. At least there was still Su Furong, who knew that he was thinking too much. Su Furong even got close to him, and that totally hurt his master's heart. At that moment, the space in the distance started to tremble. The space shattered like a mirror, and a shocking aura exploded. There is a situation. Lin Fan raised his hand, and the group stopped. Nothing happened just now, and such a thing suddenly happened. It was a little sudden. Zhu Shan said, "I think that we should take a detour." Of course, to Zhu Shan, those words were useless. If young Master Lin could listen to him, then that would be great. Why do we take a detour? This path doesn't belong to them, and they don't allow us to walk it. Let's go take a look. Lin Fan was filled with excitement and anticipation. He rarely faced battles, so how could he not be excited now that he did? Moreover, looking at the situation, the battle seemed quite intense. Although Zhu Shan had turned into a pig, his expression was still really rich, like he knew that Lin Fan would say that. It's him. When Lin Fan saw the person in the distance, his expression changed. He waved his hands. "Let's go. We can't stay here." Zhu Shen also saw who that person was. Alliance 9-star General Wu Zhiga. Oh my god, why did this person appear here? Also, who was the person fighting Wu Zhiga? They were actually on the same level. Zhu Shen knew many experts, but he had never seen this person before. Young Master Lin, who is this person? Chafu asked. Lin Fan didn't even turn his head and ran. Alliance 9-star General Wu Zhiga. He is a terrifying person. With our current strength, we are no match for him. If he notices us, we will end up badly. He was confident in his own strength, but he wasn't so confident that he could defeat Wu Zhiga. If his father was beside him, it would be fine. But with their current situation, it was best if they just washed up and slept. Chafu didn't know who Wu Zhiga was. But looking at the battle, he knew that he wasn't simple. Very quickly, Lin Fan and the others ran away dejectedly. Zhu Shan, why do you think he came here? Lin Fan asked. Zhu Shan shook his head. I don't know. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be possible. Wu Zhiga is an Alliance 9-star general and one of the top experts. Why wouldn't he be with the Alliance? Why would he appear here? He didn't understand either. Luckily, young Master Lin knew his place. If he had clashed with Wu Zhiga, the outcome would have been disastrous. They would have been wiped out, and no one would have been able to save them. At this moment, Lin Fan and the others had already run for a long distance. Kacha! Just then, Lin Fan heard a crisp voice coming from the front. At the same time, there were sounds of discussion. Even though the voices were soft, he could still hear it. Should be quiet. There are people ahead. Lin Fan raised his finger, signaling for everyone to be quiet. Wu Zhiga's appearance made him a little nervous. Why did he meet this guy out of nowhere? Back then, he had almost killed the other party, but unfortunately, he didn't have enough time. Zhu Shan frowned. The situation was becoming more and more confusing. This place was really far from Yu City, and the surrounding cities were all controlled by top sections. Even if the Alliance wanted to reach out, they couldn't reach here. Damn it. What was going on? Lin Fan got close and hid behind a giant tree. He looked into the distance and realized that a bunch of Alliance members were gathered there. They were talking to one another like they were discussing something. He listened carefully. Who was the person who stopped the 9-star general? I don't know, but he should be really strong. I didn't expect the territory of the natives to be so huge. We have been measuring for so long and actually haven't reached the end. If the Alliance can occupy all the land here, then it would be unimaginable. Lin Fan heard every single word that the members of the Alliance were discussing with one another. So they are here to survey. Lin Fan thought about it. It seemed like the Alliance had secretly attacked. If they wanted to occupy this place, they had to have a map. Moreover, with Wu Zhiga leading the team, even if they faced experts, they wouldn't fear anything. Now, that Wu Zhiga was restricted by that expert. Wouldn't he be able to do anything to these people? But that wasn't practical here. If Wu Zhiga suddenly turned back, then they were basically finished. Zhu Shun, let's go. But we have to capture these people. Lin Fan said. Zhu Shun said, young Master Lin, there's no need for that, right? He felt that there was no need. They were just a bunch of unimportant people. So what was the point of capturing them? They could even attract Wu Zhiga's attention. If they were found, then they would all be finished. There's a need. Lin Fan said seriously. Zhu Shun obviously didn't understand his use. These people could provide him with rage points, and it would be a waste to let them go just like that. Moreover, they were all Alliance members, so he had to kill them to celebrate the new year. Let's go quickly. Lin Fan didn't say any nonsense and dashed out. He released his aura and pressed forwards. When the Alliance members saw that someone had come out, they wanted to question him. But suddenly, a terrifying aura covered them. They felt like their bodies were being crushed and their brains went numb. At that moment, they fainted. Lin Fan reached out and grabbed all the Alliance members before leaving the area. Zhu Shun looked at young Master Lin's actions and was speechless. He didn't know what to say. Seeking food from the tiger's mouth, how audacious. Was he really not afraid that Wu Zhiga would notice? But since things had already happened, what else could he say? A long while later, a person walked over. Wu Zhiga had a smile of disdain on his face. He was just a native expert and wasn't worth mentioning at all. Although he escaped, he had sliced off one of his arms. As one of the strongest 9-star generals in the Alliance, he was affected by the U City incident. He led a team deep into rich land to survey the geography. So who knew that he would bump into a Celestial Alliance patrol head? To Wu Zhiga, he didn't want to have a conflict with the natives. But he didn't expect that the native would actually shout at him. Wu Zhiga, who had been bullied by Lin Wani, didn't have a good impression of the natives. Thus, he didn't say any nonsense and just attacked. But the Celestial Alliance patrol head was indeed strong. To be able to fight with him till now and still be able to escape, he had to praise him. Just like what the Alliance headquarters thought, there were many top sections. If it didn't care about them, the Alliance headquarters would face huge problems. All of you, Wu Zhiga was about to tell them to get up and leave, but when he saw the scenes in front of him, he was stunned. Damn, where were they? If he didn't remember wrongly, they should have been here. But there was no one at all, so where did they all go? He looked at the trash on the ground. He was right, they were here just now. Suddenly, Wu Zhiga noticed that there were energy fluctuations in the space here. Although it was thin, to an expert like him, he could sense any movement. Damn, who dares to kill people in front of me? Instantly, he thought back to the patrol head. That person was definitely the one who drew him away and then sent people to capture the Alliance members. It was very good. The Alliance didn't find trouble with them, but they found trouble with them. Pung! Wu Zhiga rose into the air. Where did they go? To find them in such a huge place was like searching for a needle in a haystack. But no matter what, even if he couldn't find them, he had to. Zhu Shun was helpless. What was young Master Lin thinking? There was no need to talk nonsense with these people. But he had no choice. Young Master Lin's thoughts were always hard to understand. After a long while, Lin Fan felt that this place was really safe. He placed the Alliance members down and counted a total of 40 of them. He could gain a wave of rage points. Although it wasn't a lot, as long as he worked hard, naturally it would add up. Pung! Pung! He tossed them down violently. There was no gentleness to it at all. Slowly, those Alliance members who fainted woke up. Where am I? What happened just now? They were confused and didn't know what had happened. When they opened their eyes and saw Lin Fan and the bunch of strangers, they were stunned. But very quickly, some of them remembered. When they fainted, this was the person they saw. Alliance dogs, let me introduce myself. I am Lin Fan, and I have a huge conflict with your Alliance. It isn't like I killed your father, but it is to the point where you have to die. Don't speak and let me finish. I brought all of you here to deal with you. I will chop off your limbs and feed you to the dogs. Lin Fan saw that the Alliance members were showing signs of rage, so he made things clear. He didn't give them a chance to say any nonsense. Rage points plus 999. Rage points plus 444. The increase in rage points was a decent feeling. The rage on the faces of the Alliance members turned to terror. Maybe Lin Fan's words had frightened them. He could say such cruel methods so easily. So how could they not be terrified? Cough, cough. At that moment, an old man opened his mouth and said, "We are technical members of the Alliance, and the one leading us is the strongest 9-star general, Wu Zhiga. If you capture us here, we will be noticed. As long as you let us go, we can ensure that we won't reveal your tracks." Lin Fan frowned. With a loud explosion, pressure exploded and pressed the old man to the ground. "Stop saying such useless things." Rage points plus 999. Rage points plus 666. Maybe because Lin Fan's actions were too much, it made the Alliance members furious once more. Zhu Shun looked at young Master Lin. He was really lost and didn't understand what was going on. Why did young Master Lin say so much to the Alliance? Why didn't he just kill them? Chapter 395. Killing people was a really vulgar thing. Lin Fan hated killing people. Looking at those hands that didn't have any life on them, could he really bear to let them be tainted by evil? He did kill people in the past, but that was all in the past. Let bygones be bygones. At least today was perfect. He didn't want to admit that his past self was fake and didn't exist. How shameless. Zhu Shun didn't have a good impression of these Alliance members, but he felt sad for them from the bottom of his heart. To meet such a talent like young Master Lin, they were really unlucky. These Alliance members were all talents. When they received orders to come to Rich Land to map out the first accurate map for the Alliance headquarters, they rejected it. Everyone knew that the natives were vicious, and if they were noticed, they would end up badly. In the end, when the Alliance headquarters told them that they would send Wu Zhiga to protect them, they heaved a sigh of relief. Wu Zhiga was one of the strongest 9-star generals in the Alliance. He was really strong, and protecting them was definitely not a problem. They felt really safe. But the situation now was as if they had seen a ghost. Save my ass. Just as Wu Zhiga's front foot left, someone caught them from behind. The Alliance old man had a high status in the group, and he was suppressed by Lin Fan. This infuriated the people around. Rage points increased. Their eyes turned red, and they stared at Lin Fan in rage. It was obvious that they didn't expect him to dare to do that. The old man who was being suppressed was stunned. He was old and was respected everywhere he went. However, he couldn't accept the current situation. He climbed up with much difficulty. The young people around hurriedly helped him up. This was an Alliance professor, and he would be of great help to their future. Blood flowed from the corner of the old man's mouth, and his eyes turned red. He hollered with a vicious expression, %yin, #yin. What are you saying? Lin Fan didn't understand what the old man was saying, as it was like bird language. The old man was forced into a frenzy by Lin Fan, and he shouted in the Alliance language. Anyway, Lin Fan didn't understand. He didn't know what he was saying. Of course, this wasn't important. As long as he had rage points, no matter what he said, even if he said that his house blew up, he didn't care. He could just say whatever he wanted, and he could forgive him. He is speaking the Alliance language. Zhu Xin said. Foreign language. Lin Fan giggled. The angrier he was, the more emotional he got. Maybe this was what he meant by asking for a beating. Zhu Xin asked, "What does foreign language mean?" Lin Fan didn't want to say anything more. It was normal that Zhu Shun didn't understand, and it was a little troublesome to explain. It was best if he acted like he didn't say anything. Perhaps the old man felt that he had said something that no one could understand, so he changed his tone. "Who are you people? I already said it, so I don't want to answer your retarded questions." Lin Fan waved his hand. He could not be bothered to say anything more. The appearance of these guys had made things much more interesting. Now he had a new idea. If he could cause conflict between the Alliance and the top sects, that would be great. They would be in a chaotic war, and he would be able to sow discord between them. At the same time, he would be able to gain rage points. Then, he would really be the winner in life. At this moment, Lin Fan raised his hand and formed a sword intent that landed. The aura was really strong, and it terrified the Alliance members so much that they shivered. The sharp sword intent gave them huge pressure, and they thought that it would kill them. But when they blinked, it landed beside them. Some of the more cowardly Alliance members peed their pants. Ha ha. Lin Fan laughed out loud. What a bunch of cowards. Just a little scare, and they were scared to this extent. What a joke. Damn it. The laughter of the natives was like a sharp sword that stabbed deep into their hearts. This was a humiliation. Rage points increased. Slowly, the rage points actually disappeared. It seemed like they had been provoked to the max and wouldn't continue to gain rage points. Lin Fan's head hurt. What should he do with these people? Before this, they said that they didn't want to be stained with blood, but letting them go just like that wasn't his style. Xiaobao killed them. Lin Fan thought about Zhen Xiaobao. It should be fine if Xiaobao did it. It was really simple, and it would end quickly. What a perfect ending. Zhen Xiaobao was stunned and even stuttered. Kill people? Lin Fan looked at him in confusion. Why? You don't dare? Senior, I don't dare to kill people. If you wanted to kill chickens or pigs, I won't hesitate. Zhen Xiaobao replied. For some reason, when he mentioned killing pigs, he looked towards Zhu Shan. It was like Zhu Shan, who had turned into a pig, had attracted his attention. Zhu Shan stared at Zhen Xiaobao. This kid's gaze really annoyed him. Who was he looking at? Did he want to kill him? Lin Fan was helpless. This was the first time he had met such a person. He was so cowardly. Suddenly, he sensed several auras spread over from the distance. He raised his head, and with the buff of his Dao realm cultivation, he could see many small things. No, they weren't things, but people. Someone was here, and looking at their clothing, they weren't from the Alliance. Lin Fan thought about it and had an idea. If the Alliance had a conflict with the top sex, that would be a good thing. Zhu Shan, deal with these people. Lin Fan said. Zhu Shan wasn't friendly towards the Alliance members, and when he needed to kill, he wouldn't show mercy. Moreover, these Alliance dogs were definitely up to no good. Okay. Zhu Shan raised his leg. Under the terrified gazes of the Alliance members, he stomped down and crushed all of them. Let's go. Lin Fan brought them and left swiftly. At the same time, his aura exploded. This aura surged into the sky like a flame and then quickly disappeared. In the distance, the people flying in the air were Celestial Alliance patrollers. After Celestial Alliance was formed, the various top sects chose experts to be patrollers. They were all at Dao Realm, and they were a force that couldn't be ignored. Lin Fan's aura exploded and naturally attracted their attention. A one-eyed old man said, "There's a situation there. Let's go take a look." Their mission was to wipe out the people who didn't know their place in Celestial Alliance territory. At the same time, they would check whether or not people from the Alliance or Imperial Dynasty had infiltrated. Celestial Alliance didn't find people to fight, but to stabilize their internal affairs. Now that something happened there, naturally, it attracted their attention and they had to head over to take a look. As for danger, there was no way they would be in danger. Didn't they see that they were all Dao Realm experts? Wu Zhiga searched for the Alliance surveyors. He brought them out, and now that they disappeared, even if he returned to the Alliance headquarters, who knew what kind of verbal attacks he would face? Damn, which bastard did it? If I find him, I will teach him a lesson. Wu Zhiga was furious. Suddenly, he sensed an aura spread over from the distance. He was shocked and felt like this was the person he was looking for. Pung. He instantly disappeared from the spot and sped through the dimension. His expression slowly turned dark and sunken. Anyone who dared to provoke him would only be dead. In the distance, the Celestial Alliance patrollers landed on the ground. When they saw the corpses, they exchanged glances with one another and were stunned. What was going on? Did they come here just to look at the corpses? Look at their attire, they are from the Alliance. The one-eyed old man's expression was solemn, and he didn't understand what was going on. They were surprised that the Alliance appeared here, but who killed them? This old man has a bad feeling about this. Another old man thought about it, and felt like something wasn't right. But in such a short time, he couldn't understand what was wrong. The one-eyed old man looked at the corpses, and they were all killed in one strike. The aura that exploded didn't belong to these people. Suddenly, a furious shout spread from the distance. "You're asking to die." Wu Zhiga sped through the dimension, and when he saw those scenes, he was shocked. If he wasn't blind, those corpses belonged to the Alliance members, the people he brought out. He thought that they were all still alive. Who knew that he was thinking too much and they were all dead? The Celestial Alliance patrollers were shocked. They came to their senses and realized that there was a misunderstanding. "Who are you?" the one-eyed old man asked. Wu Zhiga gritted his teeth. "You bunch of bastards, you actually killed them. I want all of you to die." "How long?" A terrifying aura exploded from Wu Zhiga's body. It formed shockwaves that swept the space. With a crack, numerous cracks appeared in the space. So strong. The one-eyed old man sensed the aura and knew that this person wasn't simple. At the same time, he felt like he had been framed by someone. He looked at the people around him. Everyone had the same thought in their minds. The aura that disappeared in the blink of an eye just now was obviously meant to attract them over, but they still foolishly bumped into it. They knew that they were from the Alliance, but they were too strong, and it wasn't wise to have a conflict with them. Someone was definitely framing them. "We didn't do it. When we came here, they were already dead," the one-eyed old man said. Wu Zhiga laughed coldly. "Do you think I will believe what you bunch of dogs say? If you didn't do it, then who did it? Hand him to me." "What do you mean by that? Are you calling us dogs?" "We are speaking nicely to you not because we are afraid of you, but because we don't want to cause unnecessary misunderstandings." The one-eyed old man hollered in rage. No matter what he said, they were Dao Realm experts, and they had status and pride. Now that an Alliance member was calling them dogs, others could take it, but they couldn't. "I am too lazy to talk to all of you. I will take all of you down and slowly deal with you." Naturally, Wu Zhiga wouldn't listen to their nonsense. Since he thought that they did it, then they did it. There was no point in saying anything more. They ran really quickly, and who knew how far away they were? "Listen, it seems like they are fighting." The voice was really subtle, but it was really pleasant to the ear. Zhu Shun looked at young Master Lin. "I'm afraid. P.S. Recently, the website has been adjusted." Chapter 396. Zhu Shan felt that young Master Lin's way of thinking was a little weird. He heard noises from the distance. Although it was really weak, when he saw the area turn gray, he knew that the battle was really intense. Who was fighting? Was it Wu Zhiga and those people? Thinking about it, that might have been the case. "Young Master Lin, it isn't that I'm talking too much, but sometimes we really have to be careful. If we fail once, we might be doomed." Zhu Xin was terrified. When he met Wu Zhiga, he was nearly frightened to death. He was just too terrifying. When one faced such an expert, one basically had no chance of survival. Even if they all attacked together, it would be useless. "Don't worry when you are with me. When have you ever been in danger? Don't you feel that I have always been really stable?" Lin Fan said. He didn't agree with Zhu Shun's words, so he had to retort. He had to think about whether or not that was the case. That seems to be the case. How else could Zhu Shun reply? Since he'd already said so much, if he said that it was all nonsense, then his future days would be tough. Su Furong wanted to become as strong as Junior Brother. His eyes spun, and he was thinking about what he should do to gain Senior's recognition. But no matter how he thought about it, he couldn't understand. Junior Brother was able to gain recognition not because of his talent, but because of his intelligence, right? It would be a little difficult to pull his intelligence to Junior Brother's level. Lin Fan looked at Zhu Shun and said solemnly, "Zhu Shun, I know what you are worried about, but I can tell you that you don't need to worry too much. No matter what the situation is, I won't send myself to my death. That is for the best. If anything happens to you, I won't be able to answer to Master Lin." Zhu Shun said. He was thinking about where old Zhang and old Wu went. They didn't die, and who knew where Master Lin sent them to? If they were here, then everything would be much easier to solve. Lin Fan understood what Zhu Shun meant and didn't say anything more. He had to live to see his father. Cha Fu didn't say anything from the start. After thinking about it for a long while, he said, "Young Master Lin, were those the Alliance?" This was the first time he saw Alliance members, and he felt that they were no different from them. "Yeah, right, that is the Alliance. Moreover, we saw a top expert from the Alliance. Last time he was so close. If we had enough time, he would have died," Lin Fan said. When he thought of that matter, he regretted it very much. Helplessness. Boasting. Chafu's first reaction was that young Master Lin was bragging. He wasn't blind, and he saw how strong Lin Fan was. And he ran faster than anyone else. Mu Gang had thoughts of taking revenge, but the more she saw, the more she realized that she was really weak. Not to mention taking revenge, she might not even be a match for some of their disciples. Let's not talk for now. This distance seems safe, but the opponent is too strong. It's hard to say if we won't be caught. Let's go. Lin Fan felt so tired. He was so young, yet he had to bear all this pressure that shouldn't exist. For a young man like him, his opponent should be a young man. But now, he had to face a group of old guys. It was normal for them to be in their 60s or 70s, and it was normal for them to be over 100 years old. The pressure was huge. This was why Lin Fan wasn't willing to play with young people. Maybe it was because he felt that he was too weak, and it felt like he was bullying a kid. Trash. All of you are a bunch of trash. Even trash like you dare to touch my people? Wu Zhiga hollered. He was stepping on the natives. Since these natives dared to attack him, their fates were already decided. Wu Zhiga was really strong. There was a reason why Lin Wani fought him to the death. These Dao Realm Stage 1 and 2, Domain Realm, and Yin Yang Realm trash weren't worth his attention at all. You jerk. The one-eyed old man was stepped on by Wu Zhiga. He wasn't weak, but in Wu Zhiga's hands, he was as weak as an ant. We didn't kill your people. The one-eyed old man was the scapegoat. Someone was framing them. Wu Zhiga said coldly, "It doesn't matter. What is important is that I can catch all of you." He didn't want to listen to their nonsense. It didn't matter if they killed them or not. Their lives weren't important. The most important thing was that if they were really killed, then at least he had to catch the culprit. This was why he just had to catch them. You despicable fellow, our Celestial Alliance has sects that are working with your alliance. The one-eyed old man said. He hoped that Lin Fan would release them. With the current situation, it was impossible to fight back. Lin Fan's strength exceeded his expectations and was just too terrifying. Kacha! Wu Zhiga used a little strength and stepped on the one-eyed old man to death. You really talk a lot of nonsense. When the patrolmen saw this scene, they were all frightened out of their wits. They actually didn't know what to do. Someone raised his hand and pointed at Wu Zhiga, who knew that he would really attack. Wu Zhiga looked over, and they were so shocked that they didn't dare to say anything. Terrifying, it was just too terrifying. Suddenly, in the distance, a terrifying aura surged over like a torrent. The aura was really strong and covered half the sky. The patrollers were excited. Someone had come to save them. Wu Zhiga frowned and didn't expect it to be so quick. That person who was strong and could escape from his hands definitely went to inform others. But he didn't expect them to come so quickly. All of you, keep quiet. Wu Zhiga pressed down with one palm and caused them to faint. He then floated into the air and prepared to fight with them. He had to bring these people back. The death of the surveyor was a huge matter. Even if he was one of the strongest 9-star generals in the Alliance, he wouldn't be able to escape from this matter. It really made him feel helpless. If he knew that this would happen, he would have let Zhu Daoshan deal with this matter. Even if he had to take the blame, that was his problem. Wu Zhiga, as an Alliance 9-star general, you actually came to Celestial Alliance territory to kill our people. Don't you think that you were a little too much? Before he even arrived, a thunderous voice rang out in his ears. What nonsense are you talking about? Your people killed so many Alliance people, so your Celestial Alliance has to pay the price. Wu Zhiga hollered in rage. He didn't care about him at all. Since things had already reached such a stage, then what else was there to say? If Lin Fan saw how complicated things were, he would definitely sigh. Haze, it was just a small matter. But slowly it became a huge matter. Maybe this was why the elders didn't lower their heads, and in the end, a small matter turned into a huge matter. It really made one feel helpless. Of course, he was delighted to see such a thing. He really wished that the Alliance and the top sects would fight to the death. That would make him really happy. Along the way, Lin Fan used all the points he had accumulated to upgrade his Dao Realm secret technique and form another Dao pattern. Now, he had 75 Dao patterns. He only had 2 more Dao realm techniques that he hadn't cultivated. Lin Fan realized that after having more Dao patterns, his strength increased greatly. But he wasn't in a rush to raise his realm. He wanted to accumulate more Dao patterns. Moreover, he had merged all the cultivation techniques he learned. Most of them contained 2 Dao patterns and were much stronger than before. But this was far from enough. He needed to accumulate more Dao patterns and raise his realm at the crucial moment to reach Dao Realm Stage 2. Dimension Control. Lin Fan was interested in dimension control, but he wasn't in a rush. Raising Dao Realm strength was the most important thing. A few days later, when the Alliance headquarters learned that the people who followed Wu Zhiga were killed by the natives, they were stunned. If not for Wu Zhiga's strength and status, someone would have smacked the table and scolded Wu Zhiga. What was the use of this fellow? He couldn't even protect so many people. But the outside world criticized him. Wu Zhiga suppressed the rage in his heart. He wanted to vent, but there was no way to do so. Of course, he blamed this matter on the native Celestial Alliance. The conflict between the Alliance and Celestial Alliance grew because of this matter. But after going through this matter, Wu Zhiga wouldn't underestimate those top sects anymore. The person who appeared fought with him for a day and night. Not only did he retreat, but he also saved everyone in front of him. His strength wasn't weaker than his. If the top sects helped to defend the border, then the Alliance wouldn't have had anything to do. What the Alliance didn't know was that Celestial Alliance was unhappy with what the Alliance did. Wu Zhiga's actions were the same as slapping their faces on Celestial Alliance's territory. The patrollers were people chosen by all the sects, and they covered a wide area. Now that they faced such a thing, who could take it lying down? But they were waiting for a chance. Celestial Alliance wouldn't start a war with the Alliance, otherwise, the other 3 alliances would take the chance. But they remembered this conflict in their hearts. If there was a chance, they didn't mind making the Alliance pay a heavy price. The sect that belonged to the one-eyed old man could only grit their teeth and swallow their grievances. Losing a Dao Realm expert would be a huge blow to the top sections. To develop a Dao Realm expert, not only did one need time, but they also needed resources. More importantly, talent was needed. It was good, but talent was hard to find. Bastard. The world was still really calm, but everyone knew that it wasn't that there wouldn't be any commotion, but that it was brewing. When everything reached a perfect level, the commotion would explode. For alliances, Imperial Dynasty Alliance. The clashes between the 6 factions would become more frequent. This was the biggest test for Imperial Dynasty. It was hard to say whether or not they would be wiped out and swallowed by others. A long while later, Lin Fan and the others returned to Marshall Path Mountain that was hidden in the mountains. They were back. They went out for a stroll. Their gains were okay, but they weren't huge. But coming back was a new start. Next, he had to develop Marshall Path Mountain. Chapter 397. Marshall Path Mountain was right in front of him. Zhu Shun heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that he was back. Just heading out made him so nervous. Zhu Shun wasn't satisfied with his own strength. He was just Dao Realm Stage 3. He seemed strong, but compared to top experts, the gap was huge. Moreover, he had turned into a pig, and his strength was affected. He could only kill normal Dao Realm Stage 3 experts. Who knew how long it would take for his body to recover? The pig body didn't bring him any benefits. Who knew whether it was because he didn't notice the secret or because this was just a normal pig body? If it was a normal pig body, then it would have been a tragedy. This is Marshall Path Mountain, my sect. You can call me Sect Leader Lin. Lin Fan said. He placed 9 Demon down and patted its head. Go back and report. 9 Demon quickly climbed up the mountain. Chafu was really curious. Lin Fan's cultivation wasn't weak, so the sect would definitely be huge. But when he raised his head, he felt a little regretful. There was nothing special about it, and even Qinji Mountain couldn't compare to it. Suddenly, a joyful voice spread into his ears. Young Master. An afterimage turned into a streak of light and struck down from the mountain. He was really quick. Chafu was shocked. Compared to him, there wasn't much of a difference. Lin Fan found it weird. It seemed like his guess was right, and Go Z did obtain faith power. Zhu Shun, look at what realm Go Z's strength has reached. Go Z wasn't familiar with his control of strength, and his aura was spreading out without any restraint. Zhu Shun's eyes opened wide, and he didn't dare to believe his own eyes. Damn, he knew that Go Z, who had been by young master's side, had no strength at all. He was a fighting chicken. But what was going on now? He realized that young Master Lin didn't care at all like he knew about it. He instantly understood that this matter had something to do with young Master Lin. He should be at Domain Realm. Zhu Shin replied. See, Lin Fan wanted to suck in a deep cold breath, but the air was too cold and it would hurt his lungs. Domain Realm. Wasn't that a realm lower than him? Looking closely, there was purple faith spreading from Go Z's body. If that was the case, then Go Z's faith in him had reached the peak, the highest level. And when he returned this faith, he didn't suppress his power and used all his strength to return it. Whether or not he could raise Go Z's cultivation to a higher realm depended on his own cultivation. He was only at Dao Realm Stage 1, so naturally, he couldn't raise Go Z's cultivation to Dao Realm. Young Master, I missed you so much. Go Z was so emotional that he was about to cry. Young Master had left for a period of time. Go Z looked at the empty Marshall Path mountain and felt like something was missing in his heart. Of course, Feng Poliu and the others weren't important to Go Z. Lin Fan smiled. Aren't I back? Instantly, Go Z thought back to the changes in his body and was about to cry. Young Master, look at my current situation. I was perfectly fine, but one day, I suddenly became so strong. Feng Poliu said that something might have happened to me, or maybe something evil is attached to my body and is harming me. Maybe not long later, I will die. When he heard Go Z's words, Lin Fan wanted to smash Feng Poliu's head. If he didn't know, then he didn't know. He actually wanted to scare him. Look at how Go Z was now. He was about to be frightened to death by Feng Poliu. Don't worry, you are fine. This is young Master's reward for you. In the past, didn't you think that you weren't strong enough? In the future, such a thing won't happen. Lin Fan consoled. Young Master, you aren't lying to me, right? Go Z was a little nervous. The main reason was that he felt like he was in a dream. Young Master wasn't on Marshall Path Mountain, so how could he reward him? Zhu Shan didn't say anything and just focused on the situation. Maybe he would be able to find out the secret soon. Look, isn't this power disappearing? Lin Fan smiled and retracted the faith power. The surging power in Go Z's body instantly disappeared. Shortly after, he returned the power back to him. Go Z smiled. That really is the case. Oh my God. Zhu Shan felt like his views of life had been refreshed. He personally witnessed something that he didn't dare to imagine in the past. Just now, Go Z's power disappeared and then reappeared. That was just too magical. What kind of secret technique could have such an effect? Moreover, it was 10,000 miles away. Lin Fan smiled. Okay, stop thinking so much. Let's head up the mountain. Zhu Shun's mind was filled with such thoughts. He muttered to himself, impossible. That was definitely impossible. Not to mention Zhu Shun saying that it was impossible. Cha Fu was stunned. Go Z was too young, but his cultivation was so strong. Young Master Lin's words were too deep, and he didn't want to understand them. But Go Z existed, and his strength was on display. Cha Fu covered his heart. Is this world really not suitable for an old man to mingle in? Zhang Xiaobao and Mu Gang didn't have much of a reaction, but Su Furong was so envious that he was about to cry. How could this happen? He also wanted to become strong. Back on the mountain, Feng Poliu had arrived long ago, and the first thing he said was regarding Go Z. His strength was so strong that it was just unbelievable. Who wouldn't be envious? Lin Fan told Feng Poliu that it was all his doing. Feng Poliu blinked like he was looking at a fool. But very quickly, Lin Fan proved to Feng Poliu who was the fool. At the dining hall, Go Z prepared a sumptuous meal for Lin Fan. Because Lin Fan said that he didn't have anything good to eat outside, Go Z went to work. Sect Leader, what is the situation outside? Zhang Tianshan asked. He paid attention to the situation outside, but it was tough to get news here. He wanted to head out to take a look, but there was danger all around, and who knew whether or not he would bump into the Alliance. Lin Fan said, "Not good. It is a little problematic. The Alliance has stretched their hands a little too far, and based on my estimation, an intense battle is unavoidable." "Young Master Lin, why do you think so?" Feng Poliu asked. He didn't believe that there would be a war. After all, it wouldn't be good for anyone. Lin Fan smiled. "I am guessing. As for whether or not it will happen, that will depend on what they think." Feng Poliu looked at Lin Fan and knew that he was bragging again. Very quickly, a fragrance floated over. Go Zi carried young master's special food over. As for others, he didn't have any. He cooked because he was fully focused on young master, so how could he be distracted? He had been outside for so long and hadn't had a good meal. Go Zi's food was really appetizing and it was really fragrant. "I came back this time because I have something to do, which is to develop Marshall Path Mountain. Do any of you have any thoughts?" Lin Fan asked. Then he added, "If you don't have any ideas, just follow my ideas." When Zhang Tianshan heard that they were going to develop Marshall Path Mountain, he was so excited that he was about to jump up. But Lin Fan's next words caused him to shut up. He already said that. What else could he think? "Young Master Lin, how should we develop? It is tough to even find a living person in this place, much less develop." Feng Poliu said. That was the case. It was so good in Jiang City, and it was so easy to develop. As for now, it was too late to say anything. If Lin Fan knew what Feng Poliu was thinking, he would definitely grumble. What can I do about that? If Chief God Faith didn't appear earlier, who knew that it would be useful? Just at that moment, a voice spread from outside the mountain. When did a sect appear in this ownerless mountain range? Who is the sect leader? Come out and meet me. The person who spoke was a young old man. His black hair was mixed with white. He stood with his arms behind his back and gave off a strong aura. Although his cultivation wasn't at Dao realm, it was around Yin-Yang realm. "Elder, we came here in the past, and there didn't seem to be a sect." A young disciple said. Another disciple said, "Maybe someone thought he was strong and found a place to set up a sect. After all, the world is in chaos and sects aren't restricted by the imperial dynasty. Everyone feels like they have some ability." Lin Fan held the soup goo in his hand. He walked over while drinking the soup. He was really calm and relaxed, like he didn't care about the outside world at all. "Who are you?" His tone was a little impatient. They were just discussing the development of Marshall Path Mountain, and now an unknown person came. At the same time, someone actually came here. Didn't that mean that Marshall Path Mountain wasn't hidden and it was easy for people to find it? Lin Fan was too young, and even if he walked in the center, he didn't attract much attention. The old man pointed at Zhang Tianshan and said, "You are the Marshall Path Mountain sect leader?" Zhang Tianshan said, "I am the deputy sect leader." "Then you are the sect leader?" The old man pointed at Cha Fu and said. Cha Fu shook his head. "No." Zhang Tianshan pointed at Lin Fan and said, "He is the sect leader you are looking for. He is standing in front of you." Eh. The old man frowned and didn't believe it. But it didn't matter. His goal here wasn't to guess who the sect leader was. "Okay, I don't care who your sect leader is. I'm an elder of Long Rainbow Sect, and 1,000 miles around is under my control. Your Marshall Path Mountain is in Long Rainbow Sect's territory, so you are under our control. I will give you a choice. Submit to Long Rainbow Sect, and from now on, Marshall Path Mountain will be managed by my sect." The old man looked at everyone in front of him. All the sects were trying to occupy territory, and their Long Rainbow Sect was no exception. Instantly, the old man noticed Mu Gang, who was standing behind Lin Fan. Looking at her appearance, he had some thoughts. This brat's foundations are not bad. Follow me back to the sect. Lin Fan drank the soup and felt really tired. "Old man, do you feel like your body is okay?" "Forget it. I'm too lazy to talk to you, Go Zi." Go Zi stood out and stared at him furiously. "You dare to disturb my young master's meal and even think about my maid. You deserve to die." Just at that moment, a bright light flashed in Lin Fan's mind, and he had an idea. He wanted to make Marshall Path Mountain stronger and couldn't find anyone. Then weren't they people? "Go Zi, come back." Lin Fan shouted. If Go Zi attacked, many of them would die. Chapter 398. Go. Z reacted really quickly and punched out. When he heard young master's instructions, he stopped. His fist was just a few centimeters away from the old man's face. Shortly after, a strong wind blew and the old man's long hair flew into the air. Go. Z retracted his fist and stood behind Lin Fan. The old man was stunned. What happened just now? He couldn't say that he didn't even react when the fist came. Only when Lin Fan stopped did he realize that the fist was already in front of him. At the same time, a wave of pressure surged towards him, shocking him so much that he broke out in a cold sweat. To put it more bluntly, he was stunned. Ew, what do you want to do? The old man's throat moved and sweat rolled down his forehead. His pupils constricted and he acted calm. Actually, he was panicking internally. He was no match for the kid in front of him. The disciples behind him had weird expressions. Go Z's fist wasn't aimed at them, but they could still sense the strength. They didn't know whether or not the elder was Lin Fan's match. The elder didn't move just now. Maybe he didn't care about Lin Fan at all. He snuck a glance. The elder was calm, and there was a bit of sweat on his forehead. Maybe it was because the weather was too hot. Lin Fan smiled and passed the soup to Go Z. He walked towards the old man. Each step he took made the old man feel a bit of pressure. He felt like he had kicked an iron plate. He just felt that he was lucky. This kid was so young, so he couldn't be so strong. It had to be a facade, otherwise there was no way to explain it. And all of you look at me. What do you think about me? Lin Fan's words stunned them. What did he mean? The old man couldn't reply to Lin Fan. Lin Fan was so close to him. He wanted to take him down, but he didn't dare to. If Lin Fan was really strong, then he was just asking to die. Forget it. Just look at your current state. What feelings can you have for me? Where's your long rainbow sect? I want to head to your sect and have a good talk with your sect leader. Lin Fan said. This sect, just from hearing it, one knew that it wasn't much. This old man was an elder, but was only in Yang realm. Isn't that embarrassing? To be able to become an elder with such strength, it was really hard to imagine. Lin Fan had become arrogant. As expected, he had been through too much. To others, Yin Yang realm was already an expert, but to Lin Fan, it was actually a weakling. It was true that when men became strong, they would become bad. They were not deceiving at all. Marshall Path Mountain's development needed manpower. It was just too tough to find a living person in such a desolate place. Now that the chance was here and a living person appeared, naturally he had to make use of it. You want to go to Long Rainbow Sect? The old man asked. He was delighted in his heart. Regardless of whether he was a match for the other party or not, he didn't want to fight. If he really couldn't win, what should he do? Now that the other party wanted to go to the sect, the opportunity had come. As long as he went to the sect, these people wouldn't be able to resist. Why do I feel like there is something wrong with your brains? I've already said it clearly. Hurry up and lead the way. Don't talk nonsense and don't think too much. I have a bad temper and I get angry easily. Lin Fan patted the old man's shoulder and gave him a piece of advice. The old man cursed in his heart. One arrogant kid. Didn't he feel like he was being arrogant? The disciples behind him didn't dare to breathe. It wasn't that Lin Fan had beaten them up, but that he gave them a really weird feeling. He made them feel like this person couldn't be offended, and it was best if they didn't show their faces. Otherwise, they might be beaten to death. The old man turned his head and looked at the palm that landed on his shoulder. It looked really ordinary, but for some reason, he felt like if he used a little more strength, he might have been slapped to death. I know, the old man replied. He acted like he was a coward, but his goal was to make him relax. Once they reached Long Rainbow Sect, he would teach them a lesson. The mountains had no master, and there were definitely no sections. Now that a sect appeared, there were only a few of them. They were really average and weren't strong. Once they reached Long Rainbow Sect, they would be easily dealt with. Lead the way, Lin Fan said. Zhu Shun said softly, Young Master Lin, why are we heading to their sect? To Zhu Shun, he suddenly wanted to die. He really didn't expect that after returning to Marshall Path Mountain, there would still be problems. Moreover, young Master Lin's ability to cause trouble was just too strong. Now, he wanted to fight his way to their sect. Did people become so impulsive? Lin Fan said, Didn't I say that I wanted to develop the sect? But if I want to develop the sect, I need people. But how can I find people in this broken place? Now that they have come to me, isn't the chance here? Zhu Shan's head was filled with question marks, and he didn't understand what young Master Lin was thinking. What did this have to do with their sect? He couldn't possibly be thinking of snatching the disciples of the other sect, right? That was simply impossible. Sect disciples all had a strong sense of belonging to the sect, so how could he snatch them just because he wanted to? Even if they belonged to the sect, it would be a fake one. Zhu Shan wanted to persuade Lin Fan not to think so much, but Lin Fan didn't give him a chance and left with him. Haze. Zhu Shan was helpless and could only follow. Gozi naturally wouldn't let young master go alone, so he chased too. Zhang Tianshan looked at Lin Fan's back in confusion. At that moment, he fell into a deep daze. If Lin Fan really did that, then that would be too miraculous. Normal people definitely wouldn't be able to think of something like that. The old man would look at Lin Fan and think about what the kid wanted to do. Anyone with a normal brain definitely wouldn't do that. There was only one reason. This kid was sick in the head, right? If not, it wouldn't make sense. How many disciples does your Long Rainbow sect have? Lin Fan asked. The old man shook his head. I don't know. Huh. Lin Fan slapped the old man's head. As an elder, you don't even know how many disciples we have. That is a little irresponsible. You. The old man was furious. Lin Fan slapped the back of his head in front of everyone, and that was an insult to him. But looking at Lin Fan's calm expression, he calmed down. Bear with it. I will bear with it. Once we reach Long Rainbow sect, let's see how you beg for mercy. I'm just an elder, so I won't ask about such things. The old man suppressed the rage in his heart and explained. He looked at the disciples who looked at him differently. Maybe to them, they didn't expect that their elder would be insulted. Moreover, after he was insulted, he didn't even dare to fight back. How was this the elder that they knew? Lin Fan shook his head. To be an elder like this, your Long Rainbow sect is just so. The old man took in a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. Okay, I will bear with it. You can say whatever you want, but I will see how long you can be arrogant for. In Lin Fan's words, it was comfortable to be arrogant all the time. Zhu Shan didn't know what to say. He pitied this fellow. As an elder, it was normal for him to not know how many disciples there were in the sect. Why was it so normal in young Master Lin's eyes? Haze, it was just too tough to be a human now. It was even tougher to become a perfect image in the eyes of others. The surrounding disciples clenched their fists. The other party had insulted their sect, which was equivalent to slapping their faces. It was simply intolerable. However, there was nothing they could do about it. The other party's strength was beyond their imagination. Even their elders didn't dare to make a sound when they were being humiliated like that, let alone them. After a long while, a sect appeared in front of Lin Fan's eyes. Your foundations are not bad, Lin Fan praised. He was really envious when he saw those well-developed sections. Unfortunately, Marshall Path Mountain was just like that and couldn't compare to them. But all of that wasn't a problem. He had started to develop Marshall Path Mountain. As long as he worked hard, one day he would make Marshall Path Mountain flourish. When the old man heard Lin Fan's words, he laughed coldly. Later on, he would make you cry for your parents. He arrived at the sect entrance. The old man said, I will inform the sect leader. Please wait. The moment he said this, the old man walked towards the sect. He walked really quickly. Although he didn't turn his head every 3 steps, he did turn his head several times. As he got further and further away, the way the old man looked at Lin Fan changed as well. As for the disciples around, they had all scattered. When the old man was far away from Lin Fan, his gaze turned furious, and he hollered, Men, there is an enemy attack. Zhu Shan knew that things would turn out like this. He was already here, so what did he have to be afraid of? Lin Fan was really calm, like he knew that this would happen. He didn't panic at all and looked around like he was sizing up Long Rainbow sect strength. It was indeed not bad. They had many disciples, and maybe they could carry out a plan. As expected, when the old man shouted for help, the Long Rainbow sect disciples were shocked. Oh my God, there was actually someone who dared to cause trouble in the sect. Who was so bold? They then looked towards the entrance. Please forgive them for wanting to laugh, but they couldn't help it. What was going on? Was the elder's brain broken by a door? There were a few children, a little pig, a weird insect with 9 heads, and an old man. Such a group came to cause trouble in Long Rainbow sect. Were they not here to joke? Instantly, some disciples came from afar, and when they saw Lin Fan, they hollered, "Take them down." The Long Rainbow sect disciples didn't think much and attacked Lin Fan right away. Gozi looked at them and stepped out. He clenched his fingers, and with a cracks appeared in the space. This was the reason why Gozi couldn't control his strength. This was why he caused a huge commotion. When the disciples who were prepared to capture Lin Fan saw the cracks in the space, they were all stunned. How were they supposed to fight? He didn't even attack, and just clenched his fingers into a fist to cause cracks to appear in the space. How terrifying was his strength? At that moment, everyone stopped on the spot. Shortly after, they retreated swiftly. They couldn't beat him. This wasn't something they could do. Gozi, slow down. Lin Fan reminded. If Gozi's fist landed, all of them would explode. Chapter 399. Gozi looked at the people in front of him, and his gaze became much sharper. This was something that had never happened before. Maybe because he was so strong, for some reason, he gave off an aura. "Don't worry, young master, I know," Gozi replied. The Long Rainbow sect disciples had strong survival skills. When they realized that something was wrong, they retreated right away and didn't give them a chance to act cool. Gozi's gaze terrified the Long Rainbow sect disciples. To them, his gaze was like he was telling them to come over if they had the balls. "Is Long Rainbow sect leader here? If you are, please come out. I have something to discuss with you." Lin Fan shouted calmly. Although his voice wasn't loud, it was like a wave that swept the entire sect, and everyone could hear it. How long? A few strong auras surged into the sky from within the sect. Who came to Long Rainbow sect? A voice spread over. Lin Fan looked out and saw an old man stepping in the air. He walked over step by step like he was using shrinking space. His body disappeared and appeared in front of him very quickly. There were also some people following behind this old man. Needless to say, they were definitely the pillars of Long Rainbow sect and were only weaker than the sect leader. The elder that was insulted by Lin Fan saw the sect leader come out and said softly, "You should have told the sect leader everything that happened at Marshall Path Mountain." The sect leader raised his head and looked at Lin Fan. After hearing what the elder said, he was confused about Lin Fan's arrival. Lin Fan didn't think much and just pointed at him. "You're the sect leader, right? Who are you?" The sect leader asked. Lin Fan said, "Let me introduce myself. I am Marshall Path Mountain sect leader Lin Fan. Your Long Rainbow sect came to my Marshall Path Mountain and wanted me to submit. I was thinking, is Long Rainbow sect really so overbearing? Since that is the case, then I came to take a look. If you are strong enough, then I will admit defeat. If you are weak, then I will occupy your Long Rainbow sect." There was nothing wrong with his words, and it made sense. When they heard this, not only was the Long Rainbow sect leader stunned, but even the others were stunned. Why did those words sound so strange? The sect leader was furious, but he laughed instead of being angry. "Kiki, you have ideas and courage. Hearing what you were saying, you are really confident that you can swallow up my Long Rainbow sect, right? Just a few of you aren't enough to occupy Long Rainbow sect." The surrounding disciples laughed loudly. If they could rank jokes, they would definitely think that this was the funniest joke. Just like what the sect leader had said. They wanted to occupy the Long Rainbow sect with just these few people. Wasn't that just a dream? Lin Fan was extremely calm. He was not the slightest bit angered by the other party's mockery. This was a very normal thing to do. So be it if you want to laugh. If Long Rainbow sect doesn't have any stronger experts, then I can tell all of you that this is the outcome and there won't be any changes. Lin Fan said. Gozi said, "Young master, let me do it." Lin Fan waved his hands. "No need. You aren't their match. Zhu Shun, I will leave this to you. I am too lazy to do anything." The current situation was that he was the sect leader, and since he was outside, he couldn't keep on doing things. That would be too cheap. He had to let his subordinates do it. Zhu Shun looked at young Master Lin and felt a little helpless. He was really going to beat them up. But looking at the current situation, young Master Lin really wanted to take down this sect. Although he didn't know what it would do, forget it. He would just listen to him. Zhu Shun walked out and walked towards the sect leader. The appearance of a piglet stunned everyone from Long Rainbow sect. Then they laughed out loud. Zhu Shun was helpless. What were they laughing for? Did they think that he was willing to be a pig? Forget it. Since they wanted to laugh, then he would let them laugh. Later on, he would make them cry. Ha ha, a pig. He really is a pig. What is going on with this sect? They said that they wanted to occupy our sect, but they sent a pig. Or is the strongest person in their sect the pig, and they aren't even comparable to a pig? If our Long Rainbow sect wants to take in this sect, I will be the first to disagree. They are just insulting us. Zhu Shun said, "Are you all done laughing? If you are, then you can slowly cry later." Shock. No one had expected a pig to be able to speak. What the hell? What was going on? Pung. Not long later, the Long Rainbow sect disciples looked at those scenes with their mouths agape. The pig that they had underestimated had just disappeared before their eyes and reappeared above their sect leader's head. With a single stomp of its hoof, it was as though space had been torn apart. The invincible sect leader was instantly stomped to the ground and disappeared without a trace. Silence reigned. Only the crumbling ground could prove that the sect master was standing there. Zhu Shun looked at the hole and wasn't too interested. The Long Rainbow sect leader was really weak and was only at Dao Realm Stage 1. But in the outside world, such cultivation was still really strong. Zhu Shun looked at the stunned people around. It seemed like they were all shocked by what had just happened. At that moment, uproar, exclamations of shock and disbelief exploded out. No one dared to believe that this was the truth. How did the strong and invincible sect leader lose just like that? Also, where did he go? They didn't believe that the sect leader would be in the hole. He was definitely hiding somewhere. Young Master Lin, what should we do next? Zhu Shun asked. Fortunately, there were no experts, otherwise it would have been a little scary. Just watch me, Lin Fan said. He walked in front of the old man who came out with the sect leader and said, "You should be an elder from Long Rainbow sect, right? How should I address you?" The old man standing beside the hole was stunned. His eyes lost their light, and he didn't move at all. When he heard Lin Fan's question, he raised his head and looked at Lin Fan. He actually didn't know what to say. "My surname is Zhou." He stuttered a little. Zhu Shun shocked them so much that when Lin Fan asked him, his first thought wasn't to fight him to the death. Instead, he answered his question truthfully. Maybe this was why in front of absolute strength, everyone would be so humble. They would hope to use their friendliest side to gain the good impression of others. "Elder Zhou, I'll have to trouble you to gather all the disciples here. I have something to say to them," Lin Fan said. Elder Zhou looked at the person in the hole and then at Lin Fan. All of a sudden, he didn't know what to do. "Is there a problem?" Lin Fan asked. "No." Elder Zhou shook his head right away and went to inform the Long Rainbow sect disciples. Lin Fan and the others walked forwards. The disciples who blocked their way made a path for them. All their expressions were really ugly. When they looked at Lin Fan, rage appeared in their eyes. The rage points this time were secondary. The main reason was to develop the sect and make Marshall Path Mountain bigger and stronger. Now, he was bringing in talents, but when he did so, he had to pay attention to some things. Naturally, not just anyone could be brought in. Not long later, more and more disciples arrived. Elder Zhou thought about running. He had a battle in his heart, but he thought about how he might not be able to run, so he didn't. Moreover, he didn't know whether the sect leader was dead or alive. He didn't understand why such an expert would appear near Long Rainbow sect. That was unbelievable and filled him with disbelief. Those disciples who arrived all talked softly. They didn't know what happened. Also, who were those people and why did they appear there? But when they learned that the sect leader was suppressed by a pig, they were stunned. If one person said that, they might think that there was something wrong with his brain to actually say such random words. But with so many people saying it, even if they didn't believe it, they had to believe it. When they came to the platform, Gozi ran towards the main hall and wanted to bring a chair for young master. He knew that young master was afraid of being tired, and he would definitely be tired standing there. When he entered the main hall, Gozi grabbed a chair and was prepared to leave. He raised his head and saw that the sect leader's throne was covered in gold, and there was a soft blanket on it. Thus, he tossed the original chair away. Only such a chair was worthy of his young master. Lin Fan looked below and felt a little envious. A sect with no experts actually had so many disciples. Thinking about how his Martial Path Mountain had so many experts, as long as there wasn't just one expert, there was no problem at all. But as for disciples, there were so few that one could count them on one hand. But he believed that there was definitely a suitable person here. Young Master, sit. At this moment, Gozi carried the throne over. When the Long Rainbow Sect people saw the throne, they were all stunned. That seemed to be the beloved throne of their sect leader. Now, Lin Fan actually carried it. That was just too much. Lin Fan sat down in satisfaction. He felt good, and it was really comfortable. He really deserves a beating. When the Long Rainbow Sect disciples saw Lin Fan, they gritted their teeth in hatred. But when they saw that the elders didn't dare to move, they naturally didn't either. Rage points appeared. There were many of them. This was the benefit of having more people. Lin Fan said, "Guys, let me introduce myself. My name is Lin Fan, and I am the sect leader of Martial Path Mountain. I have surrounded your Long Rainbow Sect, and I have my eyes on you. My intentions are clear, which is that your Long Rainbow Sect is finished. But I will give all of you a chance. Just stand here for 3 days and look at me. 3 days later, I will send all of you who don't meet the requirements to hell. As for those who meet the requirements, they will stay and become members of Martial Path Mountain. Let me make it clear to all of you. To meet the requirements, you just have to worship me like a god. I won't say much to all of you. Time starts now. You only have 3 days." Lin Fan sat on the chair and looked at all the disciples below. He was prepared to waste 3 days with them here. They were stunned. They were totally stunned. Not only were the Long Rainbow Sect disciples stunned, but even Zhu Shun was stunned. What was going on? Chapter 400. Zhu Shun was used to young Master Lin causing trouble. At the same time, he knew that young Master Lin wanted to borrow people from Long Rainbow Sect to strengthen Martial Path Mountain. But what he was worried about was that these people weren't loyal to Martial Path Mountain. In a short period of time, nothing would happen, but in a long period of time, something would definitely happen. Now, young Master Lin said that he would let the Long Rainbow Sect disciples look at him for 3 days. After 3 days, those who didn't meet his standards would be sent on their way. Zhu Shun didn't understand what was going on. Even if he racked his brains, he wouldn't be able to understand. He felt that young Master Lin was a little dumb. To the Long Rainbow Sect disciples, they were about to go mad. They couldn't understand what he was thinking at all. At the same time, when they thought about how they would be killed in 3 days, they were so terrified that they didn't know what to do. Sect Leader Lin, my Long Rainbow Sect has no grievances with you, so there is no need to kill us, right? Elder Zhou said. This was a matter of life and death for Long Rainbow Sect. As an elder, he had to protect Long Rainbow Sect. Suddenly, Lin Fan squinted and an aura exploded out. It pressed down on Elder Zhou's body. To Elder Zhou, it was like a giant mountain was pressing down on him. With a loud explosion, the ground cracked. Elder Zhou was pressed to the ground, and he fainted. 3 days, I don't want to hear a second sentence of nonsense. Lin Fan said calmly. He didn't give him a chance to speak at all. Whoever opened their mouth and wanted to be killed, were they afraid? Gozi stood behind Lin Fan and pressed his shoulder. Young Master said that he would stay here for 3 days, so he would. Anyway, he would take care of young Master. So how could he let him suffer? Nine Demon lay beside Lin Fan's feet obediently and waited quietly. He wasn't interested in such things at all. There was no need to talk about Cha Fu. From the start, he didn't understand what was going on. The words that Lin Fan had said had him feeling even more lost than before. Cha Fu felt like he was walking on a path of no return. As for what would happen in the future, it was hard to say. However, nothing good would happen. If something good happened, it could only be that young Master Lin suddenly changed and stopped causing trouble. But to him, That was basically impossible. Rage points rose. The Long Rainbow Sect disciples were furious, but they didn't dare to say anything. They stared at Lin Fan in rage, but there was nothing they could do. They were furious and didn't expect such a thing to happen. Suddenly, a Long Rainbow Sect disciple stepped out. He represented unyieldingness and loyalty. He had a fearless spirit. Guys, Long Rainbow Sect is our home. How can we be afraid of them when there are so many of us? There were many twists and turns in life. If you wanted to be noticed, you had to choose a side in a desperate situation. If you succeeded, you would be able to soar into the sky. Right now, everyone was frightened by the other party, and he took the initiative to jump out, which was enough to attract attention. However, it was a pity. Bang! An oppressive might came crushing down on the disciple. Just like Elder Zhou, the disciple was crushed to the ground and knocked unconscious. It was normal for young people to be impulsive. Lin Fan was magnanimous and was willing to give them a chance. There was a small discussion in the crowd. 3 days was a long time, and they didn't feel any pressure. At the same time, Lin Fan's arrogance had truly infuriated them. There was only one thought in everyone's mind. He really wanted to kill Lin Fan. What should we do? What should we do? I don't know. Both the Grandmaster and the Elders have been defeated. Given our strength, we're no match for him at all. Don't we have other Elders? If we work together, we might be able to suppress him. Stop dreaming. That was indeed the case. Stop dreaming. Those Elders were all smart people. So how could they not remember the current situation? Simply put, whoever jumped would be beaten up. If they weren't happy, then they could come out and try. Anyway, they wouldn't try themselves. Lin Fan sat there and waited. He looked at the many pairs of eyes that were looking at him, and he felt like he was a genius. But it was a little unfortunate. They didn't give off any faith, and that was understandable. How could they get faith so quickly? Even dogs couldn't do that. Gozi, I'm a little thirsty. Go to the kitchen and get some fruits for me. Lin Fan said. Yes, young master. Gozi didn't say a word and started to move. After Mu Gang saw Gozi, she understood the gap between them. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. Her maidservant was really weak, and there were too many things that she had to learn. Not long later, the Long Rainbow Sect disciples looked at Lin Fan in rage. Dog, he was just too animal. Not only did he beat them up, but he also ate their fruits. How could he not die from eating them? Not only were they tired from standing there, but they were also filled with fear. But that fellow was really comfortable. Just thinking about it made them furious. Lin Fan's decision to let them look at him for 3 days wouldn't change. Time passed slowly. Apart from some movements in the beginning, there were no other movements. Everything was very quiet. That night, in the pitch-black night of Long Rainbow Sect, all the disciples stood there. Elder Zhou, the sect leader, and the others still hadn't woken up. Actually, it wasn't that they hadn't woken up, but they had already woken up. But what could they do next? Get up and continue to quarrel with him? Forget it. Wasn't it good to continue to be a dead person? Anyway, no one would notice them. They would just wait for things to end, and then they would get up. Especially the sect leader. He was really unhappy. But he wasn't as strong as him. So what could he do? If he fought back, he might be beaten up even more. The sky was bright. Lin Fan took another look, and there was still no faith. He was a little disappointed with these disciples. Their desire to live was actually so weak. He said 3 days, and they didn't have any thoughts at all. Gozi was busy. He used the Long Rainbow Sect's kitchen to cook for Gozi. All the disciples were furious. That was just too much. Didn't he consider the feelings of others? They were really hungry, but so what if they were hungry? Would Lin Fan give them food? Stop dreaming. Lin Fan said, make good use of the time. One of the 3 days has passed. If you still don't satisfy me, then... Kakik. His smile was a little dark and sunken, scaring the Long Rainbow Sect disciples. Slowly, they started to feel nervous too. Maybe they really felt that the passing of time was a threat to their lives. Believe in me and treat me as your God. Lin Fan said. The disciples were about to go crazy. What the hell is faith? They really didn't know anything at all. Lin Fan's way of strengthening Marshall Path Mountain was really simple. He would find people who believed in him and then use faith to lend his strength to them. As for those genius disciples, He didn't need to tell them, as it was useless. To be direct, Marshall Path Mountain only needed bootlickers and nothing else was important. If they wanted to become stronger, then they had to strengthen their faith. Moreover, that would save them a lot of trouble. Cultivation needed to consume resources. If a sect wanted to provide all their disciples with cultivation resources, that was a huge problem, especially since Marshall Path Mountain's foundations were really weak. Where could they get resources from? They could only rob, search, and run around the world. But as the sect leader, he wasn't here to raise a bunch of kids. He was here to let them serve him well. That was really important. At the same time, he had to understand that. Time passed minute by minute. I can't take it anymore. I want to leave this place. At that moment, some disciples crazily ran out. Under such pressure, those with weaker hearts were about to go crazy. Come back. Lin Fan got up and spread out the darkness god domain. At that moment, an illusory figure holding a scepter and wearing a divine crown appeared behind Lin Fan's back. A boundless divine might enveloped out, causing everyone's heart to skip a beat. This aura didn't make them feel bad, but in their hearts, they actually felt like they were bowing down and worshiping him. Zhu Shen looked at the image behind young Master Lin and was shocked. This thing definitely wasn't something a Saint King could do. Only someone at Dao Realm Stage 5 would have such an ability. Young Master Lin was only at Dao Realm Stage 1. So what was that? Zhu Shen was totally confused and didn't understand how he did that. Lin Fan was stunned. He didn't expect that after activating the Darkness God domain, he would be able to gather some faith and cause the Darkness Chief God image to appear. It was a little overbearing. As for that disciple, it was like an invisible hand had grabbed his back and pulled him back. That disciple wanted to shout, but the disciple beside him covered his mouth, stopped shouting. Do you want all of us to die? They were really afraid that because of someone, not to mention 3 days, they would be killed right away. Lin Fan retracted the Darkness God domain and calmly looked at all of them. Think about it. There isn't much time left. Whether you live or die is up to you. He believed that under such a high-pressure situation, there would definitely be a miracle. Time flowed. At the start, they were really lost and didn't know what to do. But now all of them were thinking that they had to live and they definitely couldn't die. What should they do to be considered qualified? They thought back to what that terrifying fellow said to them, which was to look at his face. Although they didn't know what the use was, they listened to him and looked at him. At that moment, everyone looked at Lin Fan. They felt a little pressured from being stared at by so many people, and they were about to feel a little embarrassed. The second day passed. The third day, which was also the last day, arrived. Someone once said that when you stared at a person for a long time, there would only be 2 possibilities. One was that you would vomit. The other was that you could tell what it felt like. Lin Fan felt that his charm was unique, and it was impossible for him to vomit. But there was a high chance that he could tell what it felt like. Suddenly, he saw that one person in the crowd actually gained faith. The line pierced through the air and connected to him. As expected, he succeeded. Although there was only one person, it was a good start. But he didn't know how he did it. Did it have anything to do with the chief god shadow of the Darkness God domain? Because of the shadow, he was stunned. At that moment, Lin Fan stood up and squinted his eyes as he looked at everyone below. Under the terrified gazes of the long rainbow sect disciples, he slowly clenched his fists. With a kacha, the space behind him was covered in cracks. The last day, he should scare them a little to give them some pressure. Chapter 401. Tension and pressure followed. The faces of the long rainbow sect disciples were ashen white, and cold sweat poured down their foreheads like a waterfall. The last day arrived. For them, every moment was a kind of torture. There was only one thought in their minds. If this continued, the result would be obvious. Everyone would die. Up until now, they did not know if anyone met the other party's requirements. Lin Fan was too lazy to say anything more. It all depended on their own luck. That young man just now was very good. Under the tremendous pressure, he had successfully developed faith in him. This also made him understand that he actually didn't need to say much. If something could be achieved, then it would be achieved. To everyone in the Long Rainbow sect, this might be the darkest 3 days. In these 3 days, they had gone from indifference on the first day to fear and trepidation. Their mentality and psychological processes had undergone tremendous changes. Young Master, these are the tea leaves I found in the Long Rainbow sect leader's house. They taste really good. Gozi busied himself. The tea was really good. The tea leaves floating on the hot water gave off a thick fragrance. What a beast. Bastard. Long Rainbow sect leader pretended to be unconscious and would occasionally change his position. Z heard everything that Gozi said. These people were bandits who didn't show any courtesy when they came to Long Rainbow sect. They didn't even ask whether or not he, the master, could touch them. Yes. Lin Fan sipped the tea. The fragrance of the tea lingered in his mouth, and he was really energized. Z, these tea leaves are not bad. Take them all away. Young Master, I knew that you would like it, so I've prepared everything. Z replied. Lin Fan acknowledged. Long Rainbow sect wasn't much, but they really knew how to enjoy themselves. Even when he was in U City, he had never tasted such tea leaves. Zhu Shun was really impressed by the two of them. Even now, he still didn't understand what they wanted to do by coming to the Human Patriarch's Rainbow sect. If it was to rob them, they could just say it directly. There was no need to find so many reasons. Not long after, another person gained faith. Sure enough, it was just as he had expected. When in a desperate situation, the human body would erupt with endless power. Even if he didn't say it so bluntly, they could still rely on their own efforts to understand the existence of faith. The darkness god Domain gained faith and slowly became stronger. However, this faith was too insignificant. Apart from the main god's palace, there was no other change in the divine realm. He did not believe that this was the case in God's domain. It was also very useful. For example, the statues in the palace were all good stuff. They belonged to the priesthood of the Lord God. It was just that he didn't have enough faith to activate it. As time passed, more and more people believed in him. To put it simply, those who believed in him had already found the true meaning of being a bootlicker. Although it was only the lowest level of faith power, as long as they were nurtured properly, it would not be a problem to raise their faith power. As for loyalty, it was needless to say. Maybe he didn't rely on Marshall Path Mountain, but he definitely worshipped him. The sky gradually darkened. When the sun rose, the third day was over. Lin Fan looked on expressionlessly. However, his aura was getting stronger and stronger, surging towards the disciples like waves. He continued to increase the pressure. Faith, what exactly is faith? I don't want to die. I'm still very young. I still have parents at home. Boo-hoo, I'm here to learn. I haven't even finished learning, and I'm going to lose my life. How can this be? They felt a great deal of pressure. Perhaps when the sun rose, it would be their time to die. The last sun rose up as usual. In the past, it was so ordinary, but now it was so beautiful. They really hoped that they could see it once more. Okay, time is up. Lin Fan opened his mouth. His voice was like thunder exploding in everyone's minds. Some of them felt like their minds were in a mess. Their legs trembled and they couldn't stand straight. With a thud, they fell to the ground. Their eyes were devoid of energy. Were they going to die? They were really going to die. Lin Fan raised his palm, and some disciples couldn't help but float up and land to the side. While they were panicking, it was as if they had heard the most beautiful voice in the world. All of you have passed. These words were just too blissful for those who were chosen by Lin Fan. They hugged one another and cried. Their tears couldn't stop, and they jumped up and down like they had obtained huge benefits. A total of 23 people had faith. But compared to the number of Long Rainbow sect disciples, it was just a drop in the bucket. At that moment, for some reason, those disciples who had passed straightened their backs like they were really delighted. When they looked at their fellow sect brothers, their eyes were filled with regret and helplessness. When the elders saw their gazes, they were stunned. Were these disciples fools? They actually had such expressions? Okay, it is your turn now. Lin Fan looked at these disciples, and his lips curled up. To the Long Rainbow sect disciples, this smile was a little terrifying. It was as if the Grim Reaper was waving at them. No. Some disciples cried, and their mental states were on the verge of breaking down. What is faith? Don't kill me. I've already treated you as my God. Woo woo woo. Just at that moment, many more disciples had faith. This was a little magical. Not bad at all. Disciples, listen up, don't panic. Today is a calamity for Long Rainbow Sect, and you won't be able to hide from it, even if you cry. Use your courage and sect's glory to defend the sect. Even if you die, you can't let them look down on us. The elder's aura surged. 3 days was also a type of torture for him. Perhaps he had thought it through. He wanted to show his loyalty to the sect at the last moment and was prepared to fight to the death with them. But he overestimated the endurance of the disciples. I just want to live. If they look down on me, then so be it. Me too. I will kowtow to you. You are the God in my heart. As long as I am alive, I will build a statue and worship you every day. When the elder saw that the sect's disciples were so useless, he felt very miserable in his heart. He didn't expect that such a small matter would make them like this. Oh heavens, oh earth, when they encountered disciples in the past, did they let them pass so casually? They didn't have any sense of belonging to the sect and wanted to betray it when they faced danger. No matter how well they were raised, they were just ingrates. And not bad. Lin Fan noticed some disciples sending faith over. He didn't expect that there would be more at such a time. Not bad, including the ones from before. Now, there were 100, but compared to all the disciples in Long Rainbow Sect, the conversion rate was too low. But forget it, it was still good to have such gains. How can these people fight the Alliance? Jushin looked at how ugly they were and didn't know what to say. The people at the few defense lines weren't afraid of death. But there were too many sects like Long Rainbow Sect that were afraid of death. There were so many that they didn't even dare to believe it themselves. Young Master Lin said that these people fit the criteria, but he couldn't see how they fit. They were just so afraid of death, and that was just so shameless. Lin Fan brought another batch of people out. When they learned that they passed, they cried tears of joy. They felt like they had been reborn. The sky became brighter, and the air became fresher. Everything became great. They had a new direction in life and a new goal. Lin Fan thought about it. It was okay to form the faith of 100, but it couldn't compare to the faith that Gozi provided. In terms of quality and level, the difference was huge. The gap was huge. Lin Fan looked at those who didn't pass. The Long Rainbow Sect disciples were terrified and shivered. They felt like death was coming and they couldn't block it at all. Those who don't pass. Scram. Lin Fan waved his hands. Huh. Maybe some of them thought that they heard wrongly. They closed their eyes in despair and waited for death to descend. But suddenly, it was like they heard wrongly. What did he say? He told them to scram? It was like they heard wrongly. They looked at Lin Fan in confusion like they wanted confirmation. Scram, Lin Fan said. Instantly, some people didn't dare to walk. They curled up and hugged their heads. They really rolled out of Long Rainbow Sect. Some people ran right away, afraid that Lin Fan would go back on his words and regret it. Those who were chosen thought that their fellow sect brothers would die, but now they left just like that. Right? Right, they left just like that. Wasn't this a little too unacceptable? Lin Fan didn't think about killing them from the start, as there was no need. The main reason was that there wasn't much hatred between them. Moreover, they were really kind to him. Not only did they provide him with a huge amount of rage points, many of them also believed in him. It wasn't a problem that they didn't believe in him now. It was hard to say that they wouldn't believe in him in the future. These were all hidden resources, and if one died, there would be one less. In the deep hole, Long Rainbow sect leader crawled and rolled into the crowd and left. When he left, he realized that Lin Fan's eyes locked onto him. He noticed him but didn't stop him. This meant that he didn't care about him at all. He felt fortunate, but his heart hurt. His sect was finished. We will meet again in the future. Lin Fan looked at the crowd that surged towards the sect entrance. He believed that one day they would meet him once more. When that happened, there would be more faith power surging over. At that moment, those who passed were stunned. Until now, everyone was fine, but they were left here. Just thinking about it made them feel like something wasn't right. Lin Fan looked down on them. It was time to give them some benefits. Chapter 4:02. The initial level of faith did not mean that the other party would be loyal to him, but as time went on, he could become a god in the other party's heart. In a society where money reigned supreme, money was the most important thing. This was a world where power reigned supreme. Power could make them submit, especially with faith as a medium and the darkness god domain as a carrier. It was tough for these people to escape his control. All you're not bad. You passed the test and are all long Rainbow Sect disciples. Now that you believe in me, you are from Marshall Path Mountain, and I am the God in your hearts. Feel what you will gain when you place your faith in me. Feel it. At this moment, Lin Fan used the faith connection to give them power. Their faith was too weak, and the power they could take in was limited. Naturally, they couldn't compare to Go Z and the others. As for when he would reach Go Z's level, it was hard to say. Maybe it would be impossible in his lifetime. The complexity of the human heart was too high. Where did this power come from? My cultivation has loosened. I've actually reached the 6th stage of the Marshall Path. I actually broke through to Master Realm. The originally quiet crowd was now boiling with excitement. The Long Rainbow Sect's resources weren't something normal disciples could touch. Therefore, if they wanted to become strong, they had to rely on themselves. But now the situation was different. He did not know what had happened, but his strength had actually increased. Jushin looked at Lin Fan, and his eyes were filled with shock. He was filled with disbelief. He personally witnessed the huge increase in strength of the people below. Moreover, there were no energy fluctuations at all. How'd he do it? At that moment, not only did Jushin look at Lin Fan, but all the other disciples who had benefited from it also looked at him. They weren't dumb, so how could they not see what the problem was? For them to have such a change, it should have something to do with the people in the stands. Lin Fan said, "Did you see that? Can you feel it? Your strength will increase. You don't need to cultivate on your own. You just need to believe in me and treat me as your God. Your strength will become stronger and stronger. Stepping into God essence will be simple. Even void, 5 elements, yin-yang, domain, and even Tao realm won't be a problem." This bragging was a little too much. Divine essence was not a big problem. However, to reach the Tao realm was a bit of a bluff. At the very least, it wasn't as simple as it sounded. Thump! The Long Rainbow Sect disciples knelt down. If they had been envious when they saw that their fellow disciples had left unscathed, then now they felt very fortunate. If they didn't pass and were chased out of this place, then they would have nothing to do with it. Long live Sect Leader Lin. Sect Leader Lin is our light in the darkness, guiding us towards the light. There was no lack of bootlickers in the world. Once these fellows obtained a little benefit, they would look forward to even more benefits. Low-level faith was unable to influence them. Even if he asked these people to die now, no one would listen to him. However, as long as one's faith reached a certain level, there would be no problem. What gave Lin Fan a headache was that the food and drinks of these 100 people cost a lot. He was a little reluctant. Wait, there was no one left in Long Rainbow Sect, so he could move the things here. He felt that he was developing towards the path of a mob. No time to cultivate? Lack of experts? These weren't problems. As long as you had faith in me, regardless of cultivation, I could guarantee that your strength would soar to the heavens. Cha Fu looked at Lin Fan in shock. He had never seen such a scene. He didn't believe that this was a secret technique. No secret technique could do such a thing. What was the reason? He didn't know. Go Z. Bring people to move everything in Long Rainbow Sect away. Lin Fan said. Yes, young master. Go Z knew what young master was worried about. These people were recruited by young master, but they weren't sincere. He had to be wary of them. He was afraid that they would do something when they moved things away. Zhu Shan blinked. Young Master Lin, I really don't understand you. Lin Fan smiled. What is there to not understand? He felt that this was a good start. He had accumulated a lot of rage points, and once he returned to Marshall Path Mountain, he would start to increase them. All right, move away all the buildings in Long Rainbow Sect. These people need a place to stay. Zhu Shun said, "Why don't we just carry this mountain back?" "No, Marshall Path Mountain has to be pure and can't be mixed up with other sections. In the future, if we have a chance, we will tear down and rebuild all these buildings." Lin Fan said. Zhu Shun was helpless. Pure? If he really wanted to keep it pure, then he shouldn't have taken in these long rainbow sect disciples. Very quickly, Gozi brought those excited disciples and started to move. To them, although Long Rainbow Sect was their sect, they had to know their place. They knew that they couldn't go against what they were doing. So why did they have to resist? Couldn't they just accept it? Moreover, to him, this feeling was really good. Our gains are not bad. I didn't waste these 3 days. I'm really satisfied. Lin Fan smiled and looked at the busy people. What else did he have to say? As long as they continued to develop like this, the future would be really terrifying. In a certain mysterious place, Shao Qi was stunned. As the crown prince of the imperial dynasty, he had the heavy responsibility of reviving the imperial dynasty. But the situation wasn't good. The alliance and the top sects gave them too much pressure. It was too difficult to rebuild the country. Moreover, Uncle Wutong rebelled and his father was killed by him. Shao Qi couldn't accept that in a short period of time. Old Su, when can we see hope? Shao Qi looked at an old man. This was old ancestor Su, the imperial dynasty's country protector. Father sent them out from the start, and even they didn't know where they were. They felt like they were cut off from the world and had no connection at all. Su Changsun said, "Your Royal Highness, bear with it." Shao Qi's expression was a little sunken. It was okay to bear with it, but who knew how long he had to bear with it for? Everything happened too quickly. He really didn't expect the imperial dynasty to be wiped out so quickly. In the blink of an eye, it happened in just the blink of an eye. One didn't even have time to react at all. Old Su, I understand, but so long has passed. I think that the hope is too small. Shao Qi said. He wasn't the only prince, but he was the boss, so he had to bear more responsibility. Brother, Old Su will definitely think of a way. The other princes said. They all had their own thoughts. If the imperial dynasty wasn't wiped out, they would definitely fight for the throne. But looking at the situation, it was best if they didn't fight for it. It was already a miracle that they were able to survive. As for reviving the imperial dynasty, it was best to leave it to the brother. As the younger brothers, they just had to cheer from the back. At that moment, there were ripples in the space outside. Old Su sensed it and smiled. They are here. Who? The princes in the room were shocked and thought that Old Su was talking about the enemy. But when they saw his smile, they knew that it wasn't. This made them heave a sigh of relief. They had already made up their minds to spend the rest of their lives here. Anyway, they had a decent life here, and they just didn't have servants. But no matter what, to have an expert protecting them was the happiest thing. Lin Wani and Water Emperor appeared. Old Su looked at Water Emperor and was shocked. Brother Water Emperor, long time no see. I didn't expect that even you would come out of seclusion. Kiki, how can I not come out? Look at the situation. Without me, who can defend the imperial dynasty? You, the country protector? When I was strong, you didn't even have a family. Water Emperor said. As they hadn't met in a long time, Su Changsun had a good impression of Water Emperor. But those words instantly made him lose all of his good impression. He really knew how to brag. Water Emperor said, "This is the crown prince of the imperial dynasty? He doesn't look like much. Haze, each generation is worse than the last. Now, the imperial dynasty can't even protect itself. I really didn't expect it." Shao Qi felt really awkward. He didn't know who this person was. He was too direct and didn't give him any face at all. But Old Su didn't say anything. It was obvious that he wasn't a normal person, so he had to accept his teachings as a junior. Okay, there is no place for you to stay, right? Lin Wani said. He looked at Shao Qi, and naturally, Shao Qi saw Lin Wani too. He knew that this young man was Yu City's Lin Wani, the top expert who defended the border and defended against the alliance. He wanted to talk, but Lin Wani ignored him. Old man Su, the emperor said that he wants to marry a princess to my son. Where is she? I need to take a look. Lin Wani asked. Shao Qi blinked and felt a little awkward. Lin Fan didn't care about him at all and instead asked about his sister. That made him feel really awkward. Can you pay attention to what is happening now? Is it good to talk about love? Su Chang-san said, I don't care. The emperor has to do what he promised. I need to see what my daughter-in-law is like. If anything happens here, I will definitely protect her. Lin Wani said. Xiao Qi felt like a sharp sword was stabbing through his heart. How hurtful. His words were so direct. Su Changsin was speechless and looked to the side. Princess Yongla. Shortly after, a girl walked out from the crowd. She learned about this from her father, but didn't expect that the imperial dynasty would be wiped out before the matter was completed. Yongla greets Uncle Lin. Princess Yongla's looks were outstanding. Her face was small, and her features were exquisite. Her voice was gentle, and she looked like a gentle person. Lin Wani was interested and took a close look. The more he looked, the more satisfied he was. This was the daughter-in-law in his heart. Not bad, not bad. I acknowledge you as my daughter-in-law. Yongla's face turned red. Uncle Lin, father has already told me that I will listen to father. Now that father is not here, I will listen to uncle's arrangements. Good. Lin Wani laughed and felt really good. As for the prince, he had tossed it to the back of his mind. What about reviving the imperial dynasty? He had to settle his son's marriage first. Chapter 403. Xiao Qi, who wasn't respected, could only use a sneer to hide the awkwardness in his heart. Lin Wani memorized Yongla's looks and then talked about Lin Fan's personality. He praised him so much that he was just short of a golden lotus. Lin Fan, who had many flaws, instantly became a rare perfect man after Lin Wani said that. Su Changsin blinked and occasionally coughed like he was saying that he was bragging too much and that it was best to restrain himself. But his coughing was like a mosquito buzzing to Lin Wani, and it didn't affect him at all. After a while, Su Changsin saw that Lin Wani didn't stop bragging and couldn't help but remind, that is enough. Let me tell you how amazing your son is. He is the only one in the world, and everyone here is trash. Let's talk about other things first. Kiki, you old fellow, that is the only thing you can say. Okay, let's talk about other things. Lin Wani replied. All the princes were stunned. Some of them subconsciously stood up from their chairs like they didn't want to admit that they were trash. During the meeting, everyone has seen the situation. Things have become really complicated, and it is impossible to revive the imperial dynasty in a short time. Stop thinking about it. Lin Wani said. Su Changsan said, we all know that. We don't have to worry about King Wudong. What we need to worry about is the alliance and the top sections. I have tried to persuade many of them, and their intentions are clear. They won't help the imperial dynasty. They are just a bunch of ambitious people who want to occupy land and suppress the imperial dynasty. But one has to say that they succeeded. Moreover, they are behind the alliance breaking through the defense line. They haven't disappeared from the start. Water Emperor had been in seclusion for a long time, and although he didn't know much, he had heard some things. With our current strength, it is impossible to turn the situation around. I think that we should slowly accumulate strength and wait for a chance. Water Emperor's words make sense. This is the situation, and we can only wait for a chance. But I can ensure that the alliance and the top sects won't be able to take it. There will be a war between them, and that will be our chance. Lin Wani said, Oh, that's right. There are also some hermit experts who don't care about worldly affairs. If we can get their support, we will naturally be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Speaking of these reclusive experts, they were the experts of the past. However, in order to break through to a higher realm, they had no choice but to go into seclusion. Naturally, this seclusion would take a long time. Apart from those who had reached their level, ordinary people probably didn't know about the existence of these experts. Su Changsan said, Why should I help you? Indeed, they knew of some hermit experts. In the past, the imperial dynasty even suppressed some people who caused trouble. Now that the imperial dynasty was weak, if he sent himself over, there was a high chance that he would be given to the alliance or the top sections. These were all things that could not be said for certain. Zhao Xinwang, who had been silent all this while, said, If it's possible, use my Zhao family's violet gold dragon essence pill to help everyone increase their strength. Perhaps we'll have a chance. Everyone looked at Zhao Xinhuang. They were a little stunned. So generous? Martial Path Mountain. The disciples of the Long Rainbow sect came to this mountain in the past and looked at it in confusion. To them, leaving the Long Rainbow sect and coming to a new sect, they thought that it would be a strong sect, but it seemed like that wasn't the case. This time, he recruited a total of 98 people of faith. Although their faith was a little weak, it was okay to slowly strengthen them. Lin Fan was prepared to give them a good lesson. He had to teach them a lesson every day. The next day, Lin Fan gathered all of them outside the hall. He didn't do anything else, but let them continue to look at him and worship him day after day. Sometimes, simple and violent methods were the most useful ones. Zhu Shun said, "Old Zhang, our young Master Lin has many secrets and his way of doing things is a little weird. How did Master Lin develop him?" "Actually, I have something that I have kept in my heart for a long time, but I don't know whether or not you will believe me if I say it." Zhang Tianshan looked at Zhu Shun. He wanted to talk about young Master Lin's cultivation. During this period of time, he had been thinking about how it was too fake. Speak. Zhu Shun asked. Zhang Tianshan said, "Do you remember when young Master Lin left you city for Martial Path Mountain?" "A few months ago," Zhu Shun said. Zhang Tianshan nodded. "Right, a few months ago, Jiang City was attacked by the Yin demons. Young Master Lin was only at Master Realm, facing... Wait." Zhu Shun interrupted Zhang Tianshan, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. "What did you say?" "A few months ago, young Master Lin was at Master Realm. Now, he is at Dao Realm Stage 1. What you mean is that in just a few months, young Master Lin's cultivation reached Dao Realm." Zhang Tianshan, "I treated you as a smart person, but you treated me as a fool, right?" Zhu Shun's soul interrogated Zhang Tianshan's heart. "I knew that you wouldn't believe me." Zhang Tianshan was helpless and said, "If I say that young Master Lin is at Dao Realm Stage 1 now, do you believe that he will reach Dao Realm Stage 2 next month?" "Scram, what's Stage 1 a month? Do you think that Dao Realm is something that can be found on the streets?" "Stop speaking nonsense." Zhu Shun definitely didn't believe that. Dao Realm had its own pride. If it was so easy to advance, then would Dao Realm be so valuable? Zhang Tianshan didn't know why he had such a thought. Anyway, he had such a feeling. Zhu Shun's disbelief could at least prove that others were normal while he was slowly becoming abnormal. The Long Rainbow sect leader's chair was placed outside. At this moment, Lin Fan was sitting there and everyone looked at him. He had accumulated a lot of rage points this time, and it was time to raise them. The remaining 2 Dao Realm techniques increased right away. 1 Dao Realm technique required 210,000 rage points, so 2 was 420,000. With Lin Fan at the center, a retracted aura shook the area. There were already 77 Dao patterns. He felt that it was just too overpowered for him to have so many Dao patterns at Dao Realm Stage 1. Although there weren't many Dao Realm secret manuals, it was already shocking. Even if it was other Dao Realm Stage 1 experts. The Dao patterns they formed. They might not even have Dao Realm techniques. It was just that Lin Fan wanted to become stronger. He wanted to make himself stronger. Dao Body and Dao Essence had a plus sign behind them. It was already glowing. It had been glowing for a long time, but it hadn't increased. Now that he had finished cultivating the last 2 Dao Realm techniques, it was best if he increased them. He tapped on the plus sign behind Dao Body. Wong. At that moment, Lin Fan felt a shocking change in his body. This feeling was too magical, like each cell in his body was a dimension. He was unable to probe the size of the dimension. His strength increased. He felt like if he raised his finger and swiped, he could rip the dimension apart. Just using his body to break space and make the dimension appear wasn't a problem. Dao Essence plus sign. Dao Essence shook and his strength greatly increased. But shortly after, he felt like it wasn't enough. When he was at Dao Realm Stage 1, he didn't have such a feeling. Lin Fan thought about it for a moment. He felt like it was because he didn't have enough Dao Essence and Dao Body techniques. It definitely wasn't because he had too few Tao patterns. If his Tao patterns were rare, then how many others had? Right when Lin Fan was improving, those disciples were stunned. They realized that sect leader Lin's body was twisting. It wasn't like it was, but it was real. They had never seen such a thing happen to their sect leader. At that moment, Lin Fan realized that some people's faith was slightly stronger. Their faith became pure gray like it was pure. Long Rainbow Sect. After they left, the Long Rainbow sect leader didn't dare to head back right away. He waited for a day. After he felt that everything was fine, he hurried back with some disciples. The sect disciples filled him with despair. All of them were so terrified that they didn't know what to say. But what else could he do? If all of these disciples were killed, then the Long Rainbow sect would be finished. Animals. At that moment, the Long Rainbow sect leader looked at those scenes and nearly fainted. It was really empty. He felt like something was missing. Looking closely, wasn't it just a building? The sect leader's expression turned dark and sunken. He ran towards the important place. Maybe he was hopeful. Please don't let anything happen. When he opened the room and saw the mess inside, the sect leader was filled with despair. He knew that this would happen. How could there be anything left? The sect leader knew that Long Rainbow sect was finished. His many years of savings were stolen. He was stunned and walked out shakily. Sect leader, Elder Zhou walked forwards and was about to speak when he was stopped. The sect leader was filled with despair. Okay, Long Rainbow sect is disbanded. All of you can go wherever you want. Sect leader, what about you? Elder Zhou knew some things. He was a little shocked about the disbanding of the sect, but he could accept it. The sect leader said, I am tired. I am really tired. I just want to look around and live in seclusion. Elder Zhou didn't believe what the sect leader said. How could he not know what the sect leader was like? Instantly, he saw the sect leader's gaze towards him, and he understood. He was going to dismiss the normal disciples. He nodded his head. His intention was obvious. He was telling the sect leader not to worry and leave these small matters to him. Very quickly, under the reluctant farewells of many normal disciples, Long Rainbow sect was disbanded. There were no outsiders left. Sect leader, what should we do next? Elder Zhou asked. The sect leader said, let's find a sect to join. What is the point of keeping those normal disciples? If they find out that we joined other sects, wouldn't we lose all our face? I have remembered that bastard, and I definitely won't let him off. If he joined a top sect with a strength, he wouldn't dare to say that his position would be high, but it definitely wouldn't be low either. But he definitely couldn't join a vicious sect. If not, he might become someone else's fighter. Chapter 404. Lin Fan's cultivation rose to Tao Realm Stage 2. To other people, this was a huge, joyous matter. Dozens of banquets were already considered rare. They really wanted everyone to know that he had reached Tao Realm Stage 2. But Lin Fan was really calm and didn't react at all. Tao Realm Stage 2 was just SOSO. If he rose to Tao Realm Stage 6 or 7, maybe he would be a little excited. As for now, there was no need to let everyone know. The arrival of the Long Rainbow sect disciples caused the quiet Marshall Path Mountain to become really lively. Go Z's strength increased greatly due to faith, and he became the old dog in their hearts. Lin Fan was thinking of a way to raise his position in their hearts, to raise their faith. But it wasn't very effective. There were many sects in the world. Most of them were mid-tier, and there weren't many top sections. Even rare Tao Realm experts appeared. After going to 2 mid-tier sects, he realized that they had very few Tao Realm experts. Even if they did, they were only at Tao Realm Stage 1. Some were even at Domain Realm, and they weren't as strong as he thought. He hadn't been to the top sects, so he wasn't sure how strong they were. But there were definitely many Tao Realm experts. There were few who were stronger than his father, but they definitely weren't weaker than Mao, Shuntai, and the others. Lin Fan felt that if this continued, one day he would raise the world's combat strength to a whole new level. It was because of faith. Even someone like Go Z, who was so weak, could reach Domain Realm because of faith. That didn't make sense at all. The more people who believed in him, the higher the level of faith would be. It would probably create countless powerhouses. That night, within the room, the disciples were talking to one another. They were talking about the reason why they became stronger. I feel like life is filled with opportunities. Some can be grabbed and some can't. I'm not prepared to leave this place. The disciple who was lying there turned around and said to those who were talking to one another. The few fellow disciples who were chatting looked at each other with hesitation and worry on their faces. I am afraid that we will become cannon fodder. After all, we are from Long Rainbow Sect, and they won't trust us. Everyone nodded their heads. That was indeed the case. They weren't fools, so how could they not tell whether they were cannon fodder or true disciples? What's the difference between an orthodox disciple and a cannon fodder? To me, this is an opportunity. We haven't even started cultivating, yet he was able to raise our strength to such a high level. Have you ever encountered something like this before? Besides, I've listened carefully. Whether or not we can become stronger seems to be related to our faith. As long as our faith is high, our strength will increase faster. After coming to Marshall Path Mountain, some people were excited and some were worried. That was normal. Lin Fan gave them some benefits and let them see hope and a future. Out of the 98 disciples, most of them hoped to stay on Marshall Path Mountain. Let's sleep. We have to wake up early tomorrow to worship sect leader Lin. I feel like this is our cultivation and it is much easier than before. Soon, the lights went out and everything became quiet. The next day, Lin Fan woke up naturally and Go Z helped him out of the hall. He sat on the throne and enjoyed the looks of the disciples. Since he returned to Marshall Path Mountain, Mu Gang became his assistant. Go Z felt that his skills weren't strong enough, and he wasn't able to give young master a comfortable service. He needed to develop him. Mu Gang had never thought that such a thing was actually a skill that needed to be learned. If this was in the past, she wouldn't have believed it even if she was beaten to death. In the past, all of you were Long Rainbow Sect disciples, but all of you met my requirements. From now on, you will be disciples of Marshall Path Mountain. As long as you listen, no one will dare to bully you. All of you will also become stronger. This is my promise to all of you. Lin Fan said. The disciples raised their heads and looked at Lin Fan. Some of their eyes shone brightly like they were really excited by his words. Zhang Tianshan was really emotional. At least this kid was going to develop Marshall Path Mountain. However, the development path was a little off. But all of that didn't matter anymore. Strengthening Marshall Path Mountain was Zhang Tianshan's goal. Lin Fan said, "Now, I will distribute missions to all of you. I need to use Marshall Path Mountain as the center and all the powers and cities within 1,000 miles. This is your time to perform and also to prove your worth." "Yes, sect leader," everyone shouted. Zhu Shun said softly, "Young Master Lin, will this expose Marshall Path Mountain's location?" Lin Fan smiled. What was the problem? He told so many people from Long Rainbow Sect to leave, so there were definitely people who knew where Marshall Path Mountain was. Especially the Long Rainbow sect leader. He didn't think that Lin Fan would let things go just like that. He was definitely thinking of ways to find trouble with him, but he was just too weak. He was so weak that only Zhu Shun could attack, and he was just a spectator. "Don't worry, it is time for Marshall Path Mountain to step onto the stage," Lin Fan said. Zhu Shun frowned and felt like it wasn't a good idea. He wanted to be low profile and not attract attention. It was best not to participate in some things and wait for his father to find him. Then he could do whatever he wanted and it had nothing to do with him. But now, he hoped that young Master Lin could be more stable and not cause any trouble. Lin Fan looked at Go Z. His strength had reached Dao Realm Stage 2, and the faith connection between him and Go Z could transmit power over. But he didn't do so right away. To him, this could indeed raise Go Z's cultivation to Dao Realm, but he didn't. Instead, he waited. Go Z couldn't control his own strength now, so if he raised it to Dao Realm, he would lose control. This is really unbelievable. Lin Fan didn't dare to believe that this was the case. It was just too shocking. Just because of faith, he could raise one's cultivation to Dao Realm. What would people who cultivated for decades and couldn't reach Tao realm think. The Darkness Chief God's legacy ability wasn't just for show. It didn't restrict one at all. As long as one's faith reached a certain level, one could become as strong as one wanted. He loved such a method that didn't have any tricks or tricks. He was afraid that those who said it sounded nice, but in the end, there were some hidden restrictions. That was the worst. He had to thank the small support system. Without it, he really wouldn't have been able to do it. The 98 disciples left Marshall Path Mountain and started to investigate the distribution of the powers and cities within 1,000 miles. After those disciples left, Lin Fan called Gozi over. Next, it was time for them to take action. Investigating the distribution was just a facade. Raising faith was more important. All of this required Gozi's cooperation. A few days later, in a place far away from Marshall Path Mountain, Su Zhao was one of the more active disciples. At the same time, he had some status in Long Rainbow Sect. His strength was at Master Realm before, but due to faith, he rose to Grandmaster Realm. He was only at Master Realm at 40 years old. His talent could only be said to be okay, but there was basically no hope for him to reach a higher realm. Brother Su, we are already 400 miles away from Marshall Path Mountain. Tell us the truth. Can we stay on Marshall Path Mountain? Is it a place worth our lives? Someone asked. Su Zhao raised his head and looked at the people surrounding him. He kept silent for a moment. It is worth it. Believe in my feelings and believe in the changes in our bodies. Suddenly, a dark and sunken voice spread out from a distance. Who? Su Zhao's expression was solemn as he looked into the distance. As it was a dense forest, he couldn't see the exact situation within. However, the aura around was a little off. Su Zhao told the people around him to be careful. Enemies were attacking, and they didn't know where they came from. But they definitely weren't weak. A black shadow floated out from the forest like a ghost. He was wearing a black robe, and one couldn't see his face. It gave one a really suppressive feeling. Instantly, there were screams. Many black bugs appeared behind the black shadow. These bugs stacked together, and it gave one a really terrifying feeling. There were also many buzzing bugs with wings. Become food for my babies. A hoarse and dark voice spread out. When they heard this voice, they felt their hands and feet turn cold. A chill surged from their feet to their heads. They felt numb and cold. Even their legs didn't listen to their commands. The bugs surged over. Ta-ta! One of the wild beasts seemed to have been frightened. It charged forward and blocked the path of the insect. In an instant, it was counterattacked by the insect. In the blink of an eye, the originally fine wild beast was only left with a skeleton. The people who wanted to fight back were shocked when they saw those scenes. They were just too quick. Run! Someone screamed and wanted to run. However, he noticed that they were surrounded by bugs. There was no way out. Su Zhao's forehead was covered in a cold sweat. His gaze was really solemn. The situation wasn't good, and he didn't expect that he would face such a thing. We are Long, Marshall Path Mountain disciples who came out to do things. We have no grievances with you, so why do you want to eat us? Su Zhao suppressed the fear in his heart and asked. He didn't get a reply. He just stood there and didn't move at all. He didn't even lift his arms or legs. Not to mention what kind of expression he had. It made the situation even more terrifying. Pung pung. The bugs sped up and a dense bunch of them surged towards them. Don't stare like a fool. If you don't fight back, you will die. Su Zhao knew that he couldn't sit still and do nothing. Otherwise, the outcome would be catastrophic. He slashed with his blade, and blade energy surged. But facing the ocean of bugs, this bit of damage wasn't much. Even if some bugs died, more would replace them. Everyone looked at this scene in fear. It was impossible to kill them all. No, the bugs covered them. Some people raised their hands to block like they didn't dare to face what was going to happen next. But suddenly, the feeling of being swallowed by bugs didn't sweep over them. Su Zhao looked behind them and realized that there was an image behind them. They had seen it before. It was the chief god image that Lin Fan had shown to them last time. At the same time, the dense bunch of bugs didn't advance. It was like they were being blocked and blocked outside. Chapter 4:05. We are fine. These bugs are blocked. What's going on? I understand. Look at the image behind us. Isn't that what Sec Leader Lin showed us last time? Wah. Are we being protected? Everyone was excited. They thought that they were going to die, but who knew that such a change would occur? They were so emotional that they wanted to cry. At this moment, their faith strengthened. The gray faith turned to white. Everyone saw the entire process. The darkness god domain absorbed the faith and became much stronger. Amongst the white faith, there was a light blue one. Although it wasn't blue enough, it was different from the white of others. Not bad. Who knew that someone's faith in him would actually increase by a lot at such a time? The one that changed was the person who spoke. It was Su Zhao. What kind of power is this to actually block my babies? Damn. The dark and sunken voice spread out once more. Gozi was dressed in a black robe and didn't move at all. Even his voice was changed. He listened to young master's orders to teach them a lesson. Anyway, he just needed to stand there and didn't need to ask anything else. These words gave Su Zhao and the others huge confidence. They believed that these bugs couldn't harm them and were just afraid of the image behind them. As Lin Fan studied the darkness god domain, he noticed many uses. Now he was building faith and allowing the god's aura to descend. Even if they were millions of miles away or dimensions apart, as long as they prayed, they would receive a reply. Of course, it was too early to say all this. The god domain wasn't strong enough and the distance it could descend was limited. Lin Fan looked at those scenes and sighed helplessly. It was just too tough. To raise their faith, he had to personally head out to ask around. Was there anyone more hardworking than him? If there really was a world of faith, maybe it wouldn't be so troublesome. There would probably be a bunch of people fighting to provide faith for him. Gozi waited for the next order. What should he do now? Young Master still hadn't replied. Very quickly, Gozi received news from Young Master to retreat. Remember, I will return. The power behind you saved all of you, but I won't let all of you off. There was a huge problem with those words. Normally, only a fool would say that. But for the effect and pressure, Gozi still followed Young Master's instructions and said those words. The moment he said that, the black-robed man that Gozi disguised as slowly disappeared. Su Zhao and the others heaved a sigh of relief. The mysterious enemy made them think that they would die here, but they didn't expect such a situation to occur. After this incident, in the depths of their hearts, their faith in Lin Fan had increased imperceptibly. Even they themselves might not be able to feel it, but that was the truth. In the distance, Young Master, what do you think? Gozi asked. It's all right, but there are some places that aren't perfect. Work hard, and you'll have more chances to perform next time. Lin Fan said. Gozi's acting skills were really bad, which was why he made Gozi wear a black robe so that he wouldn't reveal any flaws. It was impossible to experiment too many times in a short period of time. Problems could easily arise. Who could be so tragic? Not long after they left home, they encountered danger time and time again, and it was all inexplicable danger. Therefore, an occasional experiment was the most perfect. Gozi nodded his head and made up his mind to work hard and complete Young Master's instructions perfectly. Let's go. There is no need to rush back. Lin Fan didn't think about going back so quickly. Even Zhu Shan couldn't relax with Zhu Shan by his side. This fellow's endurance wasn't strong, and when he faced weird things, he would panic. Even if he turned into a pig, his pig face was still able to perfectly express his emotions. Su Zhao and the others were really collecting information about the surrounding villages, cities, etc. But because of the alliance, some villages were uninhabited, like they had suffered some kind of destruction. As for what kind of destruction they suffered, no one knew. 1,000 miles away, an alliance team walked in the world. They wore native clothes, and their hair was all changed. If one didn't understand the alliance, or if they didn't reveal themselves, one wouldn't be able to recognize them. Since the alliance blasted open the gates to the rich land, the alliance headquarters formed a new team. This team belonged to the 6th team, and their goal was to disguise themselves as natives to understand what the natives were doing. The most important thing was what the sects were doing. The leader was a 9-star general. He had some status in the alliance headquarters, but it wasn't high. Based on their estimation, he was around Tao Realm Stage 2. General Iron Dragon, we have set up many signal devices and have contacted the Alliance headquarters. Should we continue in? A guy asked. He didn't like the clothes on his body and felt that it was too complicated. Also, his hair was too long and it was really uncomfortable. Iron Dragon said coldly, "Remember, you're not allowed to call me General outside. We are natives now, a family that migrated from another place, and I am the family head." "Yes, family head," the guy replied. What happened over at General Wujiga's side made the Alliance headquarters reevaluate the situation of the natives. Openly dressing up like the Alliance would easily attract trouble. At that moment, a person struck from the distance. "Family head, there is a city 300 miles ahead called Valley City," the guy said. Iron Dragon nodded and waved his hands to tell them to speed up. Lin Fan brought Go Zi and walked in front of Su Zhao and the others. They were really quick and looked around. Apart from some villages, they hadn't seen any cities yet. He had been thinking about something. Why weren't there any secret realms in this world? If a certain secret realm opened up, he would definitely head over play. But regretfully, there weren't any. A few days later, "Young master, there's a city there." Go Zi pointed into the distance. Lin Fan raised his head, and there was indeed a city. He waved his hands. "Let's go take a look." Along the way, they didn't face any problems. Although there were many sects, they couldn't be seen all the time. The place where Marshall Path Mountain was, it didn't belong to one of the four alliances. The territory of the four alliances was mainly concentrated in the north. After all, the Imperial Dynasty was the dividing line, and the alliance was behind it. So, even if the Imperial Dynasty and alliance worked together to attack, they wouldn't be surrounded. Valley City. Lin Fan looked at the name of the city and walked in. This city wasn't controlled by the Alliance and was under the control of the Imperial Dynasty. Maybe because it was far away, it didn't feel that strict. At the same time, it hadn't been destroyed by the Alliance and was roughly the same as before. "Young master, it seems like this place is quite safe," Go Zi said. He didn't sense any danger. "Let's take a look." Lin Fan's thoughts were simple, which was to develop Marshall Path Mountain and expand. King Wudong's rebellion succeeded and overthrew the Imperial Dynasty. Now that Lin Fan wanted to be the boss. As long as he was strong enough, he would snatch any place he wanted. No matter if it belonged to the Alliance or the Imperial Dynasty, as long as it was within range, he would snatch it all. The peddlers were shouting. The commoners weren't affected, but one could still hear some of them discussing the current situation. The rough meaning was simple. It was just that it was getting harder and harder to survive. No one knew when a crisis would come. They came to a restaurant and ate. That night, "Family head, we have placed the equipment in the city, and the signal has covered this area. The headquarters can also receive the signal and images from here." They hid their identities and came to these cities with a simple goal, which was to place equipment in the cities controlled by the Imperial Dynasty. Even if they weren't controlled by the Alliance, they would be under their surveillance. The Alliance headquarters had formed a special team for this project, and they were just one of them. They still had to head to other cities. Of course, they weren't afraid of being noticed. The natives didn't recognize the equipment, and even if they saw it, they wouldn't know what it was. General Iron Dragon was really satisfied. "Start the signal test now. As long as the signal is perfect, leave right away," General Iron Dragon said. Yes, there was a machine on the table in the inn. There were wave-like ripples on the screen, and beeping sounds spread out. It was really subtle, but if one listened closely, one could hear it. In the room beside theirs, Lin Fan wanted to sleep, but the moment he closed his eyes, beeping sounds spread into his ears. Bear with it. I am the sect leader and can't get angry. I also can't attack the commoners. But he was just too much. It still wasn't over. Lin Fan stood up and slapped the wall. Hey, can't you guys keep quiet? What are you doing at night? Why can't you do it tomorrow? You have no manners at all. If it wasn't for my status, I wouldn't be able to beat you up. As expected, it was useful. The beeping sounds disappeared. Lin Fan continued to sleep. In the room next door, General Iron Dragon said softly, Go, knock him out. Don't cause any trouble in case people notice." "Yes," the man replied. A vicious glow flashed in his eyes. To him, the natives were really arrogant. But the general said that it was a waste not to kill him. To him, if he killed him, then so be it. What other problems could there be? The man pushed open the door and walked out. He looked around and saw that no one was paying attention to him. Then he walked to the house next door and stood in front of the door. He touched the door with one hand, and with a slight shake of his hand, the door was unlocked. "Kiki." The man smiled. The door was pushed open and a gap appeared. Suddenly, just as the man was about to step into the house, an arm reached out from the dark crack and pulled him in. With a pata, the wooden door closed. It was like nothing had happened. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.